Kansas State. Down 4. Got to go quick. The Wildcats looking for a rally. That's Carter for 3. He's got it. Big shot. Not over yet.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Hawkins tees one up from 3. Picked up Newton inside. Back and forth it goes. Pinballed around. Hawkins took it. Good. Big time hit.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
San Diego State looking for the win. Butler, get it in. A rope, hands it to Trammell. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Trammell drives. He's fouled.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
He's got a mismatch with Allen if he wants it. He's got Pack. He's got him. Give it to him.
Barlow keeps it instead.
Look at the ball taken away by the Hurricanes. Poplar.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Kansas State now needs a 3 to tie it. Clock ticks. Noel dribbles. He's looking for someone. Masood got to put it up. And that's it! The Owls of Florida Atlantic.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, here we are on this Tuesday afternoon as we are winding down. Seems like the month of March has just flown by. Maybe the NCAA tournament has had something to do with that. We're going to have a note about NCAA Final Four tickets in Houston that have dropped dramatically with the 4 schools that are there, and also because 2 schools who are left, one in Houston, the Cougars, and also one just maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours away in Austin, Texas, both out in what that has done. TV ratings, news on the tournament. And if I was to ask you which of these 2 networks would have had the higher ranked games on Friday, CBS or TBS, in your head, what would you have said? We'll have that note as well. Good friend of ours may be on the verge of being a head coach back in college basketball. A lot of things to get to, and we start with this one. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for being here. Bob Thompson, by the way, former Fox Sports executive, will join us today at 5 o'clock, Mac Rhoades at 4:20. So, when Miami made their run at the end of the game to beat Texas, the ticket prices for the Final Four dropped over $100 because of the proximity of Houston already out from that game Friday to also Miami beating Texas. For example, when Houston was still in the mix, tickets were selling for $229 on Ticketmaster, $250 on StubHub. Houston eliminated, but Texas remaining, the ticket prices were $175 and $215. By Monday morning, ticket prices were as low as $100 on Ticketmaster and $122 on StubHub.
Well, one of the risks you run when you have schools that are smaller fan bases and you're playing this at NRG, right? So you've got a massive venue that you can fill, but now because of the glory that is the NCAA tournament, you've got, 3 schools that for sure have smaller fan bases, and Miami is one of them. I know that they're a popular football brand, and everybody knows about Miami, but it's not a very big school. It doesn't have a gigantic alumni base. UConn probably has a bigger fan base than everybody altogether because they're a legit national champion blue blood over a long period of time. But Florida Atlantic and San Diego State are not only that, every single school is a long, long way away, as opposed to Houston, which is a stone's throw from NRG Stadium in the same town, obviously, and Austin, which is 3 hours.
It's the single least expensive ticket to the Final Four since 2014, according to Ticket IQ.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they're dealing with small fan bases and fan bases that aren't in the state of Texas. So I don't think that there's really anything, more scientific than that behind it. You're dealing with smaller schools from farther away, and they're just naturally not going to be as much demand for, the venue as there would be if there was, like you said, a team from the city itself, a city of several million people, or a team from, just a little ways away in Austin, a city of a couple million plus people. So, yeah, I mean, it's part of the deal. I mentioned this on the podcast earlier today. Saw some pundit talking about the TV ratings are going to be awful for the national championship and for the Final Four. I don't know why, unless you're in the sports TV industry, you would give a dadgum about the ratings as far as like them being bad. I talk about them during college football season and highlight the big most heavily watched games just to give you an idea of, what games are drawing the most eyeballs. But I don't really care, past, if there's not a certain amount of people watching a game that I watched and I found it to be a great game, it doesn't bother me that only 450,000 people watched it. I watched it and I enjoyed it. That's how I'm going to be with this Final Four. Some people need the big team to, grab their eyeballs and watch. Some people need that draw, and then some people just are going to watch regardless, and that's typically me as far as a national championship game in men's basketball goes. So, I'd imagine there's a lot of lost interest in a variety of lanes when it comes to this game, but make the best of it that you can. These four teams sure aren't complaining about the fact that they won't have the highest ticket price sold ever or whatever the ratings might be. They're just trying to win a national championship.
Yep, and there they are. They're on the edge of doing that. And again, a lot of the ticket prices mentioned, StubHub, Ticketmaster, whatever, NCAA.com. A lot of them also have to do with where the seats are because NRG has like 4 or 5 different levels of seating. Now, speaking of television, the games on Friday, the NCAA regional semifinals, San Diego State's upset of the favorite in Alabama, and then 15-seed Princeton's loss to Creighton, averaged 4.5 and 4.37 million viewers respectively, both up 71% from a year ago. Providence, Kansas, Iowa State, Miami. Ratings were not immediately available, but that's the note that was here. Also, this is from Paulson, that the viewership soared at least 2/3 for all of the 4 Sweet 16 games on TBS, but the numbers on CBS were down like 40%, including having someone like Houston or Texas Xavier, they were down. What would that be like, TBS with I guess maybe Alabama got a lot of views because everyone's watching them with the story surrounding them as well. But that's kind of interesting that CBS's numbers were down, including the game between Miami, Houston, and Xavier, and also Texas.
Yeah, that is kind of strange, but maybe there's just more interest over there. And
then that Xavier game was just a ugly basketball game, and you could tell that Texas most likely was going to handle that. And, of course, we thought that against Miami, too, and that wasn't the case. So those are the numbers from CBS and also TBS. Now, Rodney Terry today officially introduced as the new men's coach at the University of Texas. Not interim anymore. We knew that yesterday when the reports started coming down from all over that he was the new head coach. His first comment, or one of his first comments, was, "It's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to be a Longhorn. God puts you right where you want or are supposed to be." He also mentioned this. He feels confident that he had the Texas job. He always felt that way. He was asked that question, I think, on the eve of the Miami game, and he said he hadn't really thought about it, but was confident. "I felt confident the whole time. I've prepared my life for this opportunity." And one more quote, and then comments from Paul and Craig on it. He never felt like he gave himself a chance to enjoy being the head coach when he was at Fresno State or UTEP because he worked so hard to rebuild those programs, saying that he's going to enjoy the process, give his players, quote, "a chance to see the real RT Rodney Terry."
Yeah, and look, this would have been crazy to me had Texas gone any other direction, especially the minute that they got to the Sweet 16. Like, you're at a point here where that's where you've been trying to get repeatedly over and over and over again. Middle of the year. It's not like he had an off season to do this. The Chris Beard situation didn't happen in June. It happened in December and January. And so they had to, at the very beginning of conference season in the toughest conference in America, go through and redo everything, and he navigated that beautifully. So it was his job, in my mind, from the point that they were still in first place after a month in the Big 12. And then deep into February, they're still contending for the Big 12 title. And then you go and win in Kansas City, and, it's kind of inevitable. But, you never know what, athletic directors and presidents are thinking. But he's in a position. He's a really good recruiter. He did a really good job this year. I'm curious to see how he does, when this is completely his now.
Yeah, I mean, much deserved, as Paul said, and I think we said, quite a bit yesterday about this and how it made sense. I know that Del Conte now doesn't make hires in season. That was part of the deal of what took so long. Without even knowing that to be a certainty, that was something that I just felt like made sense. I mean, just in general, because why would you in the middle of a tournament run when you're on the cusp of something great sit there and just hand the guy the silver platter right in the midst of that? I mean, he's going to get it eventually. Why do you feel the need to give it to him in the midst of when you're playing? What would that have accomplished other than just quieted people on Twitter? And yet we see people do that. We see organizations and, bend to this public outcry or whatever. Not that there was much of an outcry for this, but, there was some chirping about, well, are they going to hire him or not, or, whatever. And they took their time and they did it their way, and everybody's happy. And he's probably the happiest of anybody. And what a great opportunity for him, and certainly not something you would have predicted for his career for UT just a couple of years ago. But here we are. And he's reaping the benefits of the job that he did. And again, his players seem to love him, and, it's a huge opportunity and a huge decision by Texas to, invest in him and have him be the guy who's going to lead them not only into the last year of the Big 12, but their trip to the SEC. That's going to be the guy in charge. So, that's a big decision on their part, a big accomplishment to get where they got. But, definitely still have to feel, I would imagine, as happy as they all are with what they accomplished and everything, that this was a team that had a chance to do more than that. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, will probably sting some fans for a little while, as it should any fan base who feels like you didn't quite reach where you could have reached, because there was that potential for this team, especially when you look at the rest of the field. Like, there's you win that last game, you might win a national title. I mean, you're in the Final Four if you do, so that stings, but all the rest of it's been great, and, he's much deserving.
By the way, there could be another coaching announcement when it comes to the Big 12, with Texas Tech awaiting what they're going to do. And by the way, speaking of which, North Texas, Grant McCasland and Wisconsin tonight, 6 o'clock. That game's the NIT semifinals. The other one is Utah Valley and UAB. The winners will play Thursday. And so if Grant McCasland and North Texas win tonight, they would be playing Thursday night. And who knows what might be a part of that equation, whether it's tonight with North Texas's last game and or possibly on Thursday night. And a great friend of the show, John Gallagher, who's been on with us the last couple of weeks, will be on with us tomorrow. John Rothstein, former Hartford coach John Gallagher, finalizing a contract to be the next head coach at Manhattan.
He gets to live in a cool place. I mean, I think it is. I know that there are people in the chat room that would think that living in Manhattan would be a nightmare. But, and look, in a basketball mecca, there's going to be good players he's going to have access to. And, it's great for him. And the guy needs to be coaching. He's a very, 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 very good coach and needs to be out there spreading that knowledge around. So super happy for our good friend, Coach Gallagher.
Yeah, we figured that he was going to get opportunity soon, and appreciate him for being on with us during March Madness on a couple of occasions, but knew that was, probably something that was going to happen, here in the near future. Like I said, was him getting a job somewhere. So, Manhattan is a great landing spot. He seems like, a Northeastern guy that will adapt to that pretty well, and I'm with Paul. I don't know what his salary is, so I don't know what kind of Manhattan living you're talking about. But
you got to make some bucks, man.
As far as like just the idea of living there and not having to worry, like my mind immediately goes to like what the costs are. But if you just throw that out of there, then that would be a really cool opportunity and a great spot. And New York's the mecca of basketball, right? So maybe not quite Manhattan, but New York City. So he'll have plenty of talent in that backyard of his, and really glad that he's going to be back on the sidelines.
Katie Rader, by the way, saying, hey, guys, don't forget now, people might keep this in mind. There are 3 days of concerts with several big names downtown in Houston. Rockets and Astros are in town as well with their games. But I do think that's obviously something that come into it. But if Texas or Houston or a couple of other named teams were in the tournament, those tickets would not be as low as they are. And by the way, I'm happy for those fan bases that for Florida Atlantic, they live in a nice area. I mean, Boca Raton, it's not like they're not going to have the money. UConn fans are used to this anyway. But, you know, it's San Diego State, if you're a fan, that's another one of the highest cost of living cities in America. But good to see that in Miami itself. So, but I do think that the ticket drops are not because of the other distractions or other events. It's just because of how that tournament ended up over the weekend.
Texas has, or you know, whatever other team you'd want to throw in there, K-State, I mean, they would have had, how many thousands of just fans that otherwise wouldn't go just because they've got thousands and thousands of fans, and I don't know that, you know, those other schools measure up. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is schools like Texas or Kansas State have more just casual fans. Maybe they didn't even go there than FAU probably has their entire fan base.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like there's a huge difference in size, and that plays a lot into it. As far as the demand goes. But, yeah, I wouldn't take that as any type of a negative if I was, you know, FAU or those teams involved, that it's lower ticket prices. That's just I mean, that just figures that it would be that way without some of the big brands involved. But let me ask y'all this question. This is from the podcast earlier today. Do y'all consider UConn basketball a blue blood? I'm not talking about the women, the men.
I absolutely do.
I do. When you have won, 4 national titles, and you've done that all since like 99 or whatever it was, let's put it this way. They're the new blood, blue blood.
Yeah, do you consider them more of a blue blood than Villanova?
No, I think they're probably about that. Yeah, I mean, like
I think of UConn a little bit more than I think of Villanova, but I haven't really visited that in a while, and Villanova's won some since then. But, you know, back in the day, like in the early 2000s, I would have said UConn without a split second of thinking about it, because they also would have probably won a couple titles in that time frame. But, yeah, the 4 since 99 and 6th all-time, tied with Kansas. And just talking with Grayson earlier today, he thinks Villanova is more of a blue blood that just jumps out. And I was like, no, I think UConn's more. But I mean, it might be at this
multiple coaches.
Yeah, at this point, it's just a tie. It doesn't have to really be one or the other. But just the question in general of, are they a blue blood? And yeah, they've won 99, 04, 2011, 2014, and now here they are in 23 with a chance to win their 5th.
Is their 6th or 7th? Final Four appearance, whatever.
I was there. I was there in 2014. Kevin Ollie's team, and like they were. I mean, that was one of those Kentucky teams too in the Final Four that you know, everyone's like, well, it's Kentucky. You know, they're just going to steamroll right on through, and they lost. Then they had Florida. That was Billy Donovan's last kind of hurrah there at Florida before he started chasing his NBA career. And look, they beat. You know, they were good. And, you know, now they're doing it with Danny Hurley. So you got Jim Calhoun, then Kevin Ollie, now Danny Hurley. You know, if you can change coaches repeatedly over the last 20 years and continue to get to the Final Four, you're a blue blood. You know,
I think they've done it enough. I think Villanova, it's a great question. You know, Syracuse is a part of that conversation, all those 3 schools up in the Northeast coast. So I would think that I consider them, at least they have new residences in the blue blood community, because Villanova won it in 85, so it's not like they won it just recently. Jay Wright had that great run. All right, so I have been hit with this before. I have absolutely been hit with this before, a fake Twitter account, and normally it has been like Ian Rappaport, Rap Sheet on Twitter, but this happened today, and it may have uncovered. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but this really was a tough day. So, Jeff Borzello, who's a writer for ESPN, basketball writer, really, really good, never has returned any of my text messages or requests for interviews, and that's okay. But Pels, former Kentucky player, I think, he put up on Twitter, put that back up, Garrett, please. He put up on Twitter that Zach Edey of Purdue was entering the transfer portal. So, I mean, I might have fallen for that I would have retweeted it or said something, then if you went to Borzello, the fake account, it actually had all of the information underneath of it. So Dan Dockich, who used to play at Indiana, coach at Indiana, my people are telling me Zach Edey is in the transfer portal, and NIL suck. All right, it went from that was a fake account to then my people, or in other words, my sources are telling me, And then Zach Edey responded, my sources are telling me this is false. That was tough. And then Rob Douster, that's a rough one for Denim Dan as far as Zach Edey, the player. Not at all. Not at all.
Dan Dockich doesn't get along with a lot of people because he can be kind of a clown sometimes. And I don't know him. I mean, so I'm not really going to.
Roger Wallace down in Austin, the broadcaster, used to, I think, was either Uwe Blob or Dan Dockich, or like a roommate or something. Yeah,
and look, so I don't know him, but I do know that he gets out over his skis on this stuff a lot of the time. And, I wouldn't think, and Jack is a Purdue fan, but I wouldn't think if Zach Edey goes anywhere, he's going to go anywhere but the NBA. Like, the transfer portal, to me, wouldn't make sense. If he's going to leave, he's going to go to the NBA.
All right, so here's – go ahead.
So there's a fake story, and then he just so happened to hear from his sources that fake story was true right at the same time?
Yeah, that was not a good look. But then here is Pell's Year's Twitter account. Jared, did I send this one to you? Okay, it was immediately suspended, account suspended. I have it here in front of me because of that. And I don't think because Jeff Borzello put anything out, because Jeff Borzello retweeted Rob Douster, but he got his account suspended for violating the Twitter rules. That was pretty quickly.
Who was Pelzier in this whole thing?
The fake Borzello.
A fake Jeff Borzello, who was at, of course, the ESPN.com basketball writer.
Yeah, I don't know much about Dan Dockich. I know that he's very angry anytime I think I've read his name, and always trying to, be the tough guy. Am I on the right guy here?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, always the tough guy. But, yeah, that's weird that you would have heard that false story around the same time that story broke. That's kind of hard to explain there.
There was something he had reported back in the day. It wasn't too long ago, but I'm going to say like in the last 5 years, a tweet or two about Baylor men's basketball that was completely false, and I think David Kay got into it with him pretty quickly. David was not afraid to attack. Sometimes, he even admitted he got a little bit overly modulated, but they went back and forth a little bit on that. Now, Paul Catalina, you set up the NCAA bracket, correct?
Yes.
Here is the top 5 through the Final Four, through the Elite 8 and Sweet 16. Kev, B.U. Kelly. No one has any of the teams left in the tournament, but what this doesn't show you, and that's J-Man 1289 with 114 at number 5. No one that I saw who entered had anybody who is left in the Final Four winning the tournament, but it doesn't show whether or not somebody may have had somebody winning on Saturday, but not winning on Sunday or on Monday.
I believe Kev has UConn in.
Well, if he has UConn in, it's going to be tough.
So I think that's why he's in first. So
no, he has 128 points.
But I mean, that's why he has that 128 points, because he's one of the people that has UConn. Like, all these people either have UConn in or had UConn at least to the Elite 8, and nobody had Miami and Florida Atlantic. Like, nobody had Florida Atlantic. Nobody had. I mean, nobody. There's no perfect Final Four in America in any bracket anywhere.
I thought 4 people in America out of like 100 and some million or something like that had somehow had those 4.
No, it was done like a perfect Final Four. Maybe, I'm sure there's people that might have had that, but like the perfect bracket, that was done by like day 3, I think. It really was. It was done by like the 3rd day, if not even day 2. I think it had already been knocked out, certainly by the end of the first weekend. Yeah, I mean, no champion selected in that group. So how does that affect? Is it pretty much just?
Well, I think it's pretty much over.
Yeah.
So did you look into Kev?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much him. There might be some other people that could, but yeah, I think it's pretty much
just
his.
Say if somebody has San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, or Miami, and they win Saturday, perhaps they can vault up. But Paul's digging into that. But wanted to show we had the competition. We ought to show the update of the competition. By the way, going back to the teams and where they're from, as far as cost of living, Miami, San Diego, Boca Raton. Now, I don't know too much about the city of stores as far as where they are economically, but those are 3 right there, high cost of living cities.
The cost of living in the entire state of Connecticut is pretty high.
Well, I was going to say, but I don't know about stores. But yeah, that's pretty a note there that somebody just sent me on a direct message on Twitter. All right, so
maybe that means NIL money, I guess.
Maybe.
Influence cities like that, yeah.
That could mean that too. All right, Garrett, is there anything else that we have not hit?
Jeff Wilson.
Say that again?
Jeff Wilson on ESPN.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Jim Williams, who we had on yesterday's show.
My headphone's going out.
ESPN has made those deep cuts, which we knew were coming, with Bob Iger in staff as the network is set to spend $44.9 billion on sports media rights through 2027. Now you know why Bob Iger is telling everyone we need to be selective in what we invest our cash in. And he also tagged me and Bob Thompson, but this could have something to do as well with the possibility of whether or not, and it's chicken feed, what they would end up with anything with the Pac-12 if in fact they're involved at all, because it might be just the one game on Saturday night. But that's happening. As we've even had people tell us that was going to happen, and you wonder if that has any effect as well. I think it does on just television media rights going forward, not just in college athletics, but elsewhere.
Well, I would think that if you are talking about, and I can't hear a thing in my headset, so I'm going to take it off.
All right.
Are they hearing us on the channel now, or do we have to?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Okay. But there is, if you're going to cut jobs too, so if you're really trying to save money, this is why it's bad news for the Pac-12 when it comes to ESPN, because if they're cutting jobs, okay, what's saving you more money? The, $8 million you might save off of cutting jobs, or the $35 million you would spend on rights for the Pac-12 per year. Yeah. So that in this moment is bad news for the Pac-12, and it may not have anything to do with the fact of what they may be worth or not. It's just they have hit this negotiation at the time of a recession and an economic slowdown and streaming and all these other things like kind of colliding with each other. So I guess, I would think that's saving more money by not getting in on rights until they're at their bare bones, if you even want them anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it means anything as far as not taking on some Pac-12 football, except for they're just not going to spend money and just go over the moon with oh yeah, we'll just give you this. Remember when there was an idea floated at the beginning that these streamers are just going to give them boatloads of money just because, for no real reason other than just why not? They could just give them the money. That never was really realistic, and it's especially unrealistic now. You're not going to give some of these big contracts that have been handed out. If you wanted those big free payday contracts with way more money than you deserved, then you missed out on the streaming wars, about a year or two ago, when it was just every studio was flushing money down the toilet for their various channels. And yeah, that's started to catch up, and now people are going the opposite direction. So if you were part of that bubble, which, you look at the Big 12, they didn't get some gaudy deal. They got basically what they'd been making before, but given what they expected, that was good, and that was good enough to go ahead and make a move. And, it's kind of, if you look at it, if they hadn't made that now, what does that look like here in a year or two when they start to really get into that? And so, yeah, it will be very interesting to see what the Pac does. This last Tuesday was supposed to be a day. Remember? Last Tuesday was supposed to be a day where news potentially broke. It's Tuesday again. It's been a week. Nothing's changed at all from the big day they were supposed to have when something might break, and it doesn't even appear like anything's on the verge. So it's very curious how quiet it's gotten, and just what exactly that means. I think we don't really know, because one side will say that just means that they're in the midst of negotiations, and someone else might say that's because they're struggling in negotiations. I don't know, but I know that means that there is going to be a cap put on this, and there's not just going to be money heading anybody's way just for the sake of it. Everybody's got to be a lot smarter in this economy, and so that's going to definitely have an impact on sports, unless you're the NBA or someone like that who can basically the NBA is going to get a blank check, NFL style. So, they won't be affected. But, yeah, certain individual conferences, and, yeah, that's going to probably play into it somewhat.
All right, the NFL owners' meetings. John Machota, who is normally Wednesday, will be today. John McClain, who is normally today, will be tomorrow because he's covering the NFL owners' meetings. And here's a nugget. Right out of John McClain's Twitter feed, the Hall of Famer himself, who joins us tomorrow, Tillman Fertitta's $5.5 billion offer for the Commanders has been passed by two groups that have bid $6 billion to buy the Commanders from Daniel Snyder and his ownership. Here's Canadian billionaire Steve Apostolopoulos has tendered $6 billion fully funded. And the other group was led by Josh Harris, whose name has been brought up for quite some time that might include Magic Johnson among some others. I think even RG3 and other athletes are involved in that one. So what happens next, Paul?
I think the Canadian guy gets it. But yeah, so $6 billion is the going rate, and those are the two bids that the league will iron out. The funniest line about this was from Mike McDaniel today, because he used to work there back in the day, and they asked him about the price for the Commanders, and he said, it's worth that much money and they wouldn't give me free coffee.
I saw that.
So kind of shows you what's been going on there for a very long time in Washington. So $6 billion, and then over the next, the coming months, they'll figure out who they want to be the new owner of that team. For the team's sake, I mean, I'm talking about football personnel and everybody else. I would hope it would be before the draft. I don't think that's going to happen because that's only like
a month away.
It's a month away, so I don't think it gets done that fast and enough time to where the owner will say, well, this is how I want our team built. So plus, if you're Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew and the people who are in charge right now, like, you better have a darn good season next year or you're all going to be gone, because this is a new ownership group that is, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of people left in the building.
No.
Like,
and you wonder, is it still not possible for Jeff Bezos to come in with a different,
I don't think that the NFL wants Jeff Bezos involved in this, because it's a gigantic conflict of interest. Like, what other owner has a deal with all the other owners that they give him money?
Was that the case with Jack Kent Cook? Didn't he own part of the LA Times or something like that?
Yeah, but I mean, like but I mean, when you're talking about Amazon has a, how many $1 billion a year, there's a huge that's a bit of a conflict of interest there. And yeah, I don't think that they really want to get involved in that. And then especially if, say Jerry pisses Jeff Bezos off one day. I mean, I'm just giving that as a hypothetical. Or Arthur Blank gets mad at him. Well, now he can be like, well, I don't want your games anymore.
He's hurting himself.
Well, the
NFL contract with Amazon or even Fox, that's a 32-man decision. It's not a Jeff Bezos decision.
But here's the thing. He can do a lot of things for spite and not hurt himself financially.
That's what they're getting rid of right now with Daniel Snyder. So okay. All right.
I mean, I don't know if he's
Garrett,
like that. Well,
I'm a lifelong Washington fan. Garrett, I know you are. Craig was basically all but forced to. I've been sick of just how bad they've been, how inept they are, how poorly run, all the crap. Just the fact that it's getting closer is exciting in any way?
It will be when it's over. Once Daniel Snyder's ass hits the door, then that'll be a good day. Don't like the guy. Don't like the way that they've been run under him for the majority of the time. Don't like a lot about the franchise at the moment. So, yeah, that will be a great day, I think, for a lot of Washington fans whenever somebody else takes the torch and starts this new era. So, yeah, I'll be more invested. I don't think there's anybody involved where, like, if they got it, I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm not going to care any. I think anybody is better than Daniel Snyder at this point. So it's going to be a great day as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully it, reignites a bit more of a passion, but that would all, go hand in hand with winning. That would be the ticket to really reigniting that passion.
I mean, I'm excited too. I think where you're at, where no owners would bother you, I don't want Bezos near it. I don't trust that man.
Fair enough, yeah.
Like anybody else that gets it, I think it's fine. I think the amount's kind of disgusting that we're throwing $6 billion out for an organization. But other than that, if you get rid of Snyder, I'm happy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So they'll have that again. I think there's another owners meetings right before the draft, perhaps. Yeah. And the draft, of course, is about a month away.
And here's what you have to be concerned with Bezos, is that he has his fingers in so many pots. Is he going to be as invested in an NFL owner, or is this just something else that is
another toy?
Is giving him money because they're like, all right, we have the owners meetings on April 10th. He's like, I'm in space that day, so how about another day? Like all these weird things that he does. I just think that it's not necessarily a fit. I think the NFL floated out Jeff Bezos' name so that other billionaires are like, no, I'll get it. I don't want Bezos getting this, because there is a lot of dong measuring that goes on in that world.
By the way, do you know what Snyder paid to take the Redskins back then known as the Redskins and Jack Kent Cook? $800 million, and that was then a record price. And now someone's about to give him $6 billion for that franchise 7-8 times, almost 7 to 8 times the value of what he bought it for from the beginning.
I think that's just the NFL's value. And yeah, Washington too to an extent, but they need a new stadium. They have a lot of things to iron out. But yeah, I mean I don't really know of a story where a person didn't buy a franchise in the early 2000s and still has it, and it's not worth billions of dollars or not worth significantly more. I think that's just evolution, inflation, popularity, all of that. But yeah, it's a great payday for him. It was a huge investment, and that investment's going to pay off whether he's deserving of it or not.
And still had to make shady loans.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right, we got to take a break. We will have a guest who covers Miami at 3:45, and Gary Furman from Canesports.com. I mentioned Mac Rhoades today. Craig's off the radar today. Baylor had their football practice and media session earlier. Defensive line coach Dennis Johnson and players who were available. And then also Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, John Machota from NFL owners meetings, Paul's Top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
During Ram Truck Month, shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels. Ram trucks have all the quality for work or play, with impressive towing capabilities, heavy-duty payload capacity, smooth ride, and a luxury feel interior design. If you're looking for a truck that can do it all, come see the possibilities of a Ram truck. And if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams. Shop Allen Samuels, DCJ.com, or come in to see us today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
By the way, I was there today. Crawfish, that live crawfish, 30-pound bag, now $3.05 a pound. It's dropped from $3.50 a pound if you're interested in that. We're now joined by Gary Furman. He is, in fact, the managing editor, publisher of Kane Sport, covers Miami. And, in fact, Gary's been covering Miami for 40-plus years. Joins us, Paul, Craig, and David here on 365 Sports. Gary, I know Miami football and what they're trying to do has a huge attention. How much has this run in basketball caught the attention of Miami fans?
Well, first of all, thank you for dating me at the top of the segment for your audience. But no, it's catching the attention now. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm not sure it caught much attention before, but when you make the Final Four, I think everybody pays attention, and I think the Miami community, the Miami fan base, is very much getting behind this team and taking more interest in what they've accomplished, which is just a phenomenal story. And the crazy thing about it is, as Miami goes to the Final Four, is you've got a school about 35, 40 miles up the road that was not even on the map at all as a basketball program that is also going to the Final Four. FAU has done a great job this year, and they got a very favorable draw in the NCAA tournament, and they played well, and they're going to the Final Four as well. So there's a lot of basketball talk right now in South Florida.
Gary, this is a team coming out of the ACC that was really wonky this year. Was there ever a thought, especially coming off the great year they had a year ago, they added a lot of guys in the portal, that maybe this was going to be a disappointment? Because, as you know, most teams rode to the ACC conference season, it was just, who is really, really good in this league this year?
Honestly, Miami was far and away the best team in the ACC this year. For people that didn't follow it closely, they had a couple bad losses along the way that you just shake your head. How did that happen? They lost a road game at Georgia Tech, which was the worst team in the ACC. Just didn't show up to play that day. Probably took it for granted, and ended up in a dogfight and ended up losing. But I think it was a very close game. And then they had a game later in the season against Florida State, which was kind of middle of the pack to second, third of the pack team in the ACC, and they played them at home. They had a 25-point lead and just stopped playing. And, these are kids, they're there's other things in their lives. There's, I don't need to go on in that regard, but they got up by 25 points in the first half of that game, and they just stopped playing, and they got caught at the end and lost the game on a buzzer beater from deep. Almost half court, I think it was. So they lost the game there. But most of the other few losses were on the road in the ACC, and those are tough games. You're not going to win every single game. I don't care who you are when you go on the road in the ACC, and most of them were 2-point games. There was one team the entire year that really beat them and beat them soundly, and that was Maryland on the road in the first month of the season. And beyond that, they've played very good basketball, very consistent basketball all year long, other than those couple blips that I mentioned. But when people that aren't really that familiar with them, that aren't following them closely, look at the record and see those losses, their thought is going to be, Miami's not that good, or, like you said, what do you call it, wonky or whatever, or, like Miami had a wonky season or whatever. People can use any word they want. That's what it's going to look like to somebody that isn't close to the situation. This is a very good team. This is a team that is built for March Madness because of the flexibility that they have with their players, and they can find ways to match up with just about anybody. They've played all different styles in the ACC throughout the year, and they got a game Saturday against a UConn team that's very hot right now and playing very well. My personal opinion is that will probably be that the winner of that game will probably be the team that wins the national title. So, we'll see what happens.
Gary, what's it been like to see Jim Larrañaga and the ride that he's been on? It seems like he's got the fountain of youth, but, just a fun guy to watch coach. Seems to be having the time of his life with this team as well. Obviously, this isn't completely foreign territory to him, but, when it comes to Miami, a lot of people immediately, as you well know, point to, NIL or whatever the case may be. You just talk about the job he did constructing this roster and how he's guided it along the way.
And there's a lot of ignorance there too, guys. I mean, you talk about NIL. NIL is legal, okay? Everybody is doing NIL legally now. People have been doing NIL illegally for decades, and most of those are the schools that are complaining about NIL now because they don't have it all to themselves anymore. What's gone out of Miami? They picked up a couple transfers that were given NIL opportunities once they decided to come to Miami. And then a couple of the existing players got NIL deals. But there is not widespread NIL at Miami basketball. Like, there's plenty of players that are getting nothing right now. And, they've done this the right way. They've done a great job of identifying pieces and bringing in kids that will mesh with the other kids. And they put together a phenomenally gifted basketball team that of kids that love each other. They love playing for and with each other, and they match up very well against everybody. So other than that one game against Maryland this year, they have been a virtual impossible out for most people. I mean, Maryland was the one team that matched up very, very well with them because of physicality and size, and caught them on a bad day and beat them pretty soundly. So I think they will, with a week to prepare, have a very good game plan for UConn on Saturday. And UConn is going to have to play extremely, extremely well for 40 minutes to beat this team, because there have been two teams in the tournament, Drake being the first and then Texas the other day, that played exceptionally well for 3/4 of the game. And then Miami turned it up to a whole nother level in the last 10 minutes and won those games easily. So somebody's got to play very, very well to beat this team the way they're playing right now.
When did you think, perhaps as they hit the midway part of the second half, Texas just kind of always seemed to be up by 10? I mean, they controlled the game pretty much from the beginning. Miami continued to shoot at a high percentage. I think Miami cut it to 6, and then Texas had a run and alley-oop, and it's 10 again. When did you start to wonder if they had enough left in the tank? Because it does seem like they just eventually wore down Texas.
Yeah, I never wondered, and I'm going to tell you why. Texas lead was propped up by just a ridiculous level of three-point shooting. There was one point where they had a 7 3-pointer advantage on Miami. That's 21 points. And Miami was playing well, and they were shooting well also. The difference was they were making 2-pointers, and Texas was making 3-pointers. And I felt like if they could just adjust and start defending the 3-point line, which they did, that it would be much tougher for Texas, and that the shooting percentage would come back to earth. And it did to a degree. Both teams still ended the game shooting very, very well, but Miami started playing defense much better, They were able to force some turnovers, get some quick baskets, and the 11-point lead was down to 4 in about a minute and 20 seconds. Like, it happened very, very quickly. And then once they got to, within a better striking range at 4 points, now it's going to come down to being able to score and execution. And I felt that put Miami in a very good place because that's their strength.
So if North Carolina was in it last year, and Duke was in the Final Four too, and Miami's in the Final Four now, why does Jim Phillips see the need to have everybody get together and talk about the perception of this basketball league?
Because the ACC has always been run by, the Carolina schools, and, it's not just about them anymore. Like, they're sharing the wealth with Virginia and Miami. Florida State's had some good teams, and they have the problem. If the ACC has a problem, is it's more perception than reality. The ACC is still extremely competitive, and all these teams are all very good teams. They're just not, Carolina and Duke just aren't able to dominate the way that they have, in years going back. And people equate Duke and Carolina dominating to the ACC being the ACC. But, you pointed out, they had 2 teams in the Final Four last year. They got Miami in the Final Four this year. The ACC is representing itself, very, very well. Miami was in the Elite Eight last year. So there were 3 teams in the Elite Eight last year from the ACC. I mean, that's pretty good.
All right, so spring drills, of course, beginning football with Cristobal in his second year. The thoughts, the expectation, where they are, how do you get a feel for what they're doing right now?
They're just working. They're just working hard, trying to get better. They're not running their mouths saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. When you go 5-7, you don't have a right to say anything about anything. And I'm very impressed with the work ethic I'm seeing. I think they will be a better team this year. I don't know what the over-unders are going to be in Vegas or whatever, but, I think that this is a team that can improve quite a bit this season from where it was last year. Is it going to win 10, 11, 12 games and contend for the playoffs? I don't know that they're there yet. They're working in that direction. Probably going to take a couple more recruiting classes. But I think they'll be improved.
Are you surprised they did not get into the transfer portal more for a quarterback?
No, they're actually pretty good at quarterback right now. Tyler Van Dyke is back as the starter. He's an exceptional quarterback. They have a backup by the name of Ja'Cory Brown, who was not very good last year, but he has improved his game. And then they have a true freshman, Emory Williams, who's looking very good in spring practice. Now, that said, if they could get a young quarterback to come into the program and compete with those other 2 young guys in the fall through the transfer portal, it would not shock me if they did it. Because, like you said, they got one guy that's really kind of proven. The other 2, even though they're doing well in practice, you don't really quite know what you've got there. So we'll see what happens. It wouldn't shock me if there's somebody that wanted to come, but they won't reach for it for sure.
Gary, by the way, as a lifelong Nebraska fan, even though the last 10 or 15 years they've been irrelevant, where were you when they played Nebraska in that dramatic game that ended with the tip 2-point conversion from Turner Gill to try to win the game?
I was sitting up in the stands at the Orange Bowl. It was one of the most unbelievable atmospheres in football games that I've seen in all these years. I mean, you're talking about something that happened, 1983.
39, almost 40 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, you're talking 40, really 40, 40, almost 40 years ago. Yeah, so I remember it like it was yesterday. Thank God. I was sitting in the stands just watching this just magnificent football game, and it was something else. I'll tell you that. And obviously, it propelled Miami to phenomenal heights.
Paul, you want to ask him anything as a Florida State fan, since you lived through that a little bit too?
I mean, it's all the trauma I have in my life. But not that Bobby Bowden is not ever going to be thought of as one of the greats, but if not for Miami, and he said this many times, he would be for Miami.
Yep.
There's so many other stories that could have been written about him, but because of a bunch of kicks, 3 wide rights and a wide left,
missed kicks. Yeah. Gary, it's been a great run. You got there and started with what you did with that website and covering them with what you've done for 40-plus years at the perfect time. Thanks for your time. Appreciate your knowledge. And perhaps back in August or so when we get there, we'll have you on again to talk more about football.
Anytime, guys.
Gary Furman with us, covers Miami, Kane Sport on Twitter, with us on 365 Sports.
I mean, I had to be at one of them. Yeah, bring it out. I had to sit there and watch one of them myself.
That's one
with
of the
my
more
eyes
traumatic
in the Orange
losses
Bowl.
too, yeah. And blame Nebraska for launching the Miami dynasty, because who knows if in fact they kicked the extra point, tied the game, but Osborne was going to have none of that, and so they broke my heart missing the 2-point conversion. All right, when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, Mac Rhoades will join us today a little bit after 4:15, around 4:20. Many things to get to with him. Craig's off the radar a little less than an hour from now, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great deals on whether it be new or pre-owned vehicles, or great customer service as well, or great care of your vehicle. Whatever it is that you're looking for when it comes to your automobile, Richard Carr is there, and they are the people that you can count on if you're in Central Texas. And right now they've got a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, many of them under $20,000. They have a variety of pre-owned vehicles that are affordable, thoroughly inspected, and ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Plenty of quality pre-owned vehicles ready to drive today. Just contact the folks over at Richard Carr. Let them know what you might be interested in. They can help you whittle down your choices and get into some of the details and the special financing and offers. For example, if you're looking to buy new, dozens of Sierra trucks right now on the lot. Qualified buyers can save thousands on the new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500. If you're looking for a luxurious SUV without luxurious pricing, you can go over there and experience the smooth and quiet ride of the 2023 Buick Envisions. Qualified buyers can get lease payments with $5,000 down cash for trade at $269 per month, or save thousands on a purchase of the new 2023 Buick Envision. But those are a couple of the newer offerings. And again, get more details by going on over or giving a phone call to the dealership and talking to one of their great sales representatives. Give you all the bones of what you're looking at as far as the deal goes. So quality pre-owned cars and trucks, great offers as well, and they also have great customer service. If you're just looking to drive your car or truck a little while longer, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. Go to richardcar.com to see their service specials and to set an appointment for quick and reliable repair or oil change or whatever it is you may be looking to do with your vehicle. In business for 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Cars priced right both day and night at Richard Carr in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue at Richard Carr in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room at Richard Carr in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust at Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Thank you to MC Gusto, UCF fan. $20 super chat, MC. We appreciate it. Keep it up, guys. Go UCF. Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You said that he feels like we said the set looks different than a year ago and that we might be more professional than we were a year ago. Maybe I'm going to take it back.
The helmets are different.
Yeah, the background's a little
the background's a little different.
This set's been there from the time we started here inside the studio, not in Paul's upper level of his mansion. All right, this is interesting. It caught my attention. The U.S. gambling industry adopted a new responsible marketing code that will ban sports books from partnering with colleges to promote sports wagering, bar payments to college and amateur athletes for using their name, image, and likeness, and end the use terms free or risk-free to describe promotional bets.
Well, there's no – it's again like that's a lie. There's always a risk. Like, how can you because here's the thing. Maybe technically the risk-free thing would be, okay.
Not to bet?
Yeah, but like if you do the thing, you just do the one bet and you don't lose any money on that promotional thing. But how many people just do that? Like, I'm going to do the one bet. Oops, no, sorry. See you later, MGM Grand. I'm done. That was a fun little foray into gambling. Yeah, they've got to keep it pretty clear here with college athletes and NILs, considering that there's not anybody, other than a state law that prohibits NIL partnerships with some of these people out there. And, some don't feel the need to mention it, or some just don't exist. Some don't have state laws on NIL. So you could have somebody there getting money from a casino, and then that gets the waters get murky there when it comes to that.
Yeah, I don't quite understand what this means. Outside of just the general headline, I'm not sure like what this entails.
I think if anything, just reiterating what they're trying to stand for.
I honestly, I understand that it cost myself a sponsorship here, but I start to hear about the gambling side of stuff, especially like the legal side of it, and my eyes just roll in the back of my head. I could not care less. I'm not saying that you brought up that story, But like it's just not of interest to me, but I understand that it's become such a huge angle and a huge moneymaker and a huge everything. And that's where a lot of it's going. Like, you know, the big sponsorships, you see it plastered off every show imaginable, basically. And I get they got to curb it somewhere, because otherwise it'll wrap its hands around the entire sports industry and, you know, suffocate it with gambling money and advertisements and all of that. So I do think there needs to be some brake checks along the way. I don't know what all this actually entails, but I think it's good to have some measures to prevent it from just being wide open, free for all Wild West type of scenario.
You start letting you start letting collegiate athletes start to promote gambling. Man, you know,
I don't think that's good.
That's one of the things that they're saying. Also, the new rules to which all the association members have agreed require that anyone depicted in sports betting advertising be at least 21. They also restrict advertising to media where at least 73.6% of the audience is reasonably expected to be 21 or older. I don't know where they came up with 73.6%.
So yeah, not buying this segment of Dora the Explorer brought to you by Caesars. I think so. Well, first of all, that's just smart, because you can. I don't know that kids can get on and lie about your age and, you know, put your parents' driver's license in. No, I mean, what for? It was more effort than it's worth.
Here's one of the things that's interesting as well is that it is, and Craig, your lack of interest. First of all, one of the favorite segment that I watch, if I am even up to watch Scott Van Pelt at night, is the Bad Beats. I love that, and that's really more than the gambling of who it was. It's just the way and how brutal it can be, actually. I love that segment. But are your lack of interest in all that mainly because you don't?
I mean, I enjoy that segment. I think that's a fun segment and all that. I think it's just partially that I don't, and so therefore when I turn on the TV or I read, you know, a story, I don't know. I'm just not into it. It's not something that fascinates me. It's not something where I'm like, got to get my FanDuel ready for today. I know people that are like, they got to get my daily lineup in, and I see it consume some people, and I see the up and down nature of it, and I just not dabbled with it. If it was legal in Texas, then maybe I'd find, ways to be more induced by the craziness of it, I guess, or the wild roller coaster that it can be and the money-making opportunity that it is and all that. But I don't know. It's never been legal here, and I haven't hopped on those apps and tried to find my way through. It's not that big a deal to me. And like when I watch games, I know I had a friend growing up that he basically bets just to make the games interesting. And I feel like you get to that point, then what's the point? Like if you get to the point where you only watch it because you've got $50 riding on it or something, if that's the only way you enjoy it, then maybe you just don't really enjoy it that much. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I look at it. I don't need to be convinced to like something because I have money riding on it. I just won't watch it. You
wonder if there's anyone who watches just games after games after games that doesn't have a favorite team. And
gamblers.
From Sir blah blah blah. No, Sir blah blah blah. You lost me at reasonably expected when the question or the comment was where at least 73.6% of the audience is reasonably expected to be 21 years or older. Mike Bean, it's a blast. Just control it. Well, that could be even drugs.
I'm not anti-gambling or a PSA or anything. I've just never seen the appeal. It's never struck a chord with me. I've never been like, oh my gosh, I got to put money on this. It's just not my DNA to wager. Now, if I lived somewhere where it was free and legal and it was easily accessible and all that, then maybe I'd throw some money down on a game or two. But that's not where I live, and I just never got into it. But I have no issue with those as long as you control it and you don't hurt other people. Then go wild and have fun. But it's just not something that I've ever I'm watching Boston College Duke on a Tuesday night because I've got the spread 7 and the Blue Devils. That's just never going to be me
either.
But I get that that's a lot of people out there, if not a majority of sports fans at this point. I mean, you see the advertisements everywhere, and that seems to be the point of every single conversation. I think too. I get tired of listening to podcasts where I know these people aren't really like that great at gambling, but because of their advertisers or because that's the thing you're expected to do now is talk spreads on every single game. Like that's 90% of the conversation at this point. And I also get the appeal of that. But it becomes a little overkill for me, or it has at least.
This segment brought to you by Caesar's Palace, by the way, in Las Vegas. We appreciate that.
I save my gambling for I do DraftKings during fantasy football season, but I don't do it. I don't really get into other than like entering a lineup in a like a dollar league or something that I feel is really good that I've done. Then doing it with just a group of friends where it's like I know that the 15 people in this we're all putting in $5 in this lineup, and that's it. And then when I'm actually at casinos, I'll gamble a little bit, but I don't like.
Well, why else would you go to the casino?
Yeah, I mean, like other than that, like, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. Even like when we were in New Orleans the last time around, Amanda and I went in to Harrah's a couple times. And we were like, I just really don't want to. I did a slot machine for like 5 minutes. I was like, that's enough for me. I don't.
It can be addictive,
but I do like.
But most anything else in life can be.
Yeah,
addictive.
That's true. But I do like that we're allowed to talk about it in sports now. But I am with Craig on. There's a lot of podcasts where there's a lot of sports bros that are out there trying to tell you how to win money, and there's only a few people you should really listen to on that are really, really good at it.
Phil Venzer in Vegas right now is like, obviously, we're not saying we're against it. We're just not, some of us aren't like dive deep into it. And that's the whole point. I've been to casinos when Baylor was at the Sugar Bowl. Dropped by like almost nightly and went over there and took a couple $100 in there or $50, whatever it was, and enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, this isn't an anti-gambling message by any means. I'm just saying I don't do it. I don't have interest in it. I don't look into it. I don't care about it. And it doesn't affect my sports enjoyment one way or the other. I know people that if not for gambling, they wouldn't enjoy sports. I know people who are like me who don't need it whatsoever. Maybe they still dabble in it because it spices up like a Wednesday night NBA game or something, and they like to just casually bet on that. That's all cool. I have no judgment whatsoever as long as you like I said, you're not hurting anybody else. So, yeah, this is by no means an anti-gambling thing. I just am not into it, just me personally. But I certainly understand the appeal for those who have that itch. And I don't know, if I lived in Vegas or I had a bunch of money and had money to burn, then maybe I'd be into it.
Yeah, I've always been of the opinion that you can. It's easy to gamble when you have the money to lose that you're gambling.
Yeah.
And I've been more confident when I've gone into a casino knowing that I could throw down a few $100s rather than if I walk in there with a $20 bill and try to, I'm done, like that.
We will get it in Texas probably in the next gubernatorial cycle when we have a different governor, and also when some local state representatives, I'm sorry, like, I'm not saying this because I want this to happen, but it comes for everybody because you get old, will pass away because they're in just enough pockets to keep it from happening and taking just enough money from casinos actually that, funnel it under the name of the Committee for Family Prosperity, and it's really a casino in Oklahoma.
That means Oklahoma and Louisiana will become even more rich or richer because they won't be spending money on keeping people from voting on gambling in Texas.
But
right?
Exactly. But those people are going to have to die because when they've been the state representative from their district in this small town forever, and then like somebody who's like 45 years old will be like, I'm going to run against Earl, and then the people in town are like, why are you running against poor Earl? It's all he's got. And then that guy loses terribly, and then they have to wait for Earl to pass away.
Keonte, if you took away the fantasy sport aspect and the gambling part, interest in televised sports might drop 80%.
Oh yeah, I understand. I understand the appeal of it. I understand the fascination. I would imagine without even looking that like 95% of the chat room bets on. I have no qualms with that. No. Again, it's just I don't do it, so it's not something that when I hear gambling this or gambling that I'm like, ooh, what'd you say? Like what is that? It's just it's an area of the industry that it's just not one that and
there's nothing wrong with that.
Pay that much attention to.
Mike Bean, I could easily fall in degenerate mode if I were younger. And then how about this one? And then we get a break for Mac Rhoades. What will be approved first in Texas, marijuana or gambling?
It might happen at the same time Because it's a whole. Well, I mean, they're changing marijuana rules right now because they essentially don't prosecute it. I was at the Crawfish Boil the other day. I was there with a guy who's a federal prosecutor, was one of the guys there, and he said, "Yeah, they don't really prosecute it anymore unless you're like just bringing in tons." But if you've as far as misdemeanor stuff, that's over, and medicinal marijuana is happening, and it's slowly getting there. But probably marijuana first, and then gambling. But it might happen at the exact same time because they're kind of the same people that vote against each of them, or they're the same people.
Forever, Tyler, Smith County was the wettest dry county in the history of the world and earth. And one of the reasons was a lot of people just did not want it in their city for beliefs and Christian beliefs or whatever it was. You drove 20, 25 miles south to Palestine, or Lake Palestine. You drove 20 miles east to Kilgore across the county line, or 15 or 20 miles north up to north of or near Big Sandy to get it, and all of a sudden now you can go anywhere. They passed it. It's been many years.
Where'd you get your speeding ticket that time?
Oh, Malakoff.
Malakoff had a honky tonk right there.
Yeah.
Right on the dry county, not Malakoff. It's right there.
Yeah.
So.
And we appreciate all of you. I got to read Steve. We have gambling in Kansas, weed in Missouri, so a lot of the sinners driving back and forth across the state.
Yeah. No, I mean, Texas is one of the last holdouts, I suppose. And, like I said, if they pass that measure at some point and you can sports gamble, I could just go on my phone and do that rather easily, then on occasion I'd probably do it. I definitely get the appeal, and I know why we're swarmed with it, because it's a cash cow. It is the cash cow in sports, and Kalani is absolutely right that 80% of this audience, or 80% of your average, college football game. I know that not everybody's just watching that for nostalgia or for tradition. Most of that is gamblers, and that's why the industry is absolutely exploding. But I also just kind of hesitate to go full on board with that, because that kind of concerns me a little bit. And that's why measures like the one that we started talking about to begin this conversation are important, because, you absolutely could see a scenario where gambling gets its grip into certain sports, and we know how those stories go, and especially college athletes. I mean, you can see where that could go real sideways really quickly.
Anytime I hear gambling and college athletes, I think about the old, was it Boston College that had the big gambling scandal back in the day? Sorry to interrupt you on that. Hayden Maxwell, thanks for the $10 super chat. I'm not going to read it so much because you're discussing another show and something you didn't like about them, so I won't do that, but we appreciate you bringing up Fresno State and or San Diego State. If you had to pick between the two, I don't think there's much question. I would think that it would be San Diego State 1A in that. From Hayden, that being said, Craig, do you think building both of those programs bring better long-term value to the Big 12 after both the Arizona and whether Oregon or Washington join or not? It's a lot of words right there.
Yeah. I mean, San Diego State over Fresno State is pretty much a no-brainer, for me at least, and I think it probably would be for most people. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to buy into, like, what are actual conversations and what are just preliminary discussions. The whole Pac-12 saga or whatever you want to refer to it as. There's been a lot of, like, well, that's not what's being said. No, that's what's being said, and it's all just a bunch of word salad. So without delving into all that in terms of what interest actually is defined as on the part of the Big 12, I mean, clearly they're kicking the tires. And so I do believe there's got to be some smoke there for a reason as far as Fresno and just expansion in general, because it's the topic that won't go away and that they keep, kind of adding fuel to on occasion. But yeah, I take San Diego over Fresno as far as the, making a difference overall in the long term. I mean, I think it depends on what kind of combination you get. If it's just Fresno, then I don't know how much that really, catapults your overall value.
No, this would be after, if the Arizonas or whether Oregon and Washington join or not. I would think if that happens, I don't think you look at Fresno State or San Diego
Look, if
State.
any team from the Pac-12 joins the Big 12 simply, then none of the teams from the Mountain West have any value to them after that.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way to put it. I mean, because if you can get the teams that are already Power 5 schools that already have that infrastructure in there without having to build it up, you're going to do that. I mean, I'm not knocking the other two schools. It's just like where they are in the –
you close it out.
I didn't get to read the question in full. So, yeah, I mean, if you have the Pac-12 up first, then obviously you take them or whoever that would be. And if not, then I think a lot depends on what San Diego State does, right? I mean, if they have their choice, I think they'd probably pick the Pac just to stay away from all the travel that they would incur. So at that point, if you miss out on the Pac schools, you miss out on San Diego State, I mean, you just expand them to expand, or do you really need that West Coast window that badly? If you do, then, yeah, Fresno State does add value for you. But I'm not in the mindset of, like, just add to add and grow. I think they need to be smart and calculated. It appears they're being that way. But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it at the end as long as it makes sense. And, you know, that West Coast window, they clearly have a desire for that, so that would make sense in that regard.
Back in a moment, Mac Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, is next on 365 Sports. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans, I was there the other day, stopped by. Cheyenne and Ashley were there. 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded up with cigars of all the great brands. Some of them are the ones that are not just ranked in the country, but around the world, whether it's Padron or Macanudo, whether it's Cohiba and or Ashton. Artur Fuente and Rocky Patel, Oliva, or what it might be with you, they have those cigars for you. They have CBD products, including Vita Dreams, and what they have with Vita Dreams, it's a gummy. And a gummy that if you toss and turn and there's just nights in which you're not sleeping, or just every night you take a little bit of a gummy and all of a sudden you do have a much more restful and longer night's sleep, because it just might calm you down enough to where you're not worried about something personal, something financial, or just a lot on your plate the next 2 or 3 days. They have it. Ashley, Cheyenne, and Carol know their business. They have fresh coffee beans as well. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Shumidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Ashton, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Shumidor in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhoades, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhoades, with us. 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. This is 365 Sports, and I saw Mac earlier today. He was getting out of his chauffeur-driven limousine and walking into the athletics department building, and then walked out to football practice. It was nice to see you earlier today.
Yeah, that 2001 Chevy Suburban is far from a limousine. So
that's a big dude, though, Mac. That's a long, big, monstrous type car you have.
Yeah, that's my hunting vehicle, which I never use to go hunting because I don't have time to go hunting. But it looks good. It looks like a hunting vehicle.
So in like logistics and walking across the campus or walking around the athletics complex, there's dirt, cranes, everything. The indoor facility being extended, what you're trying to do with the football ops building, there's the pavilion. How sometimes do you stop and just like beam with pride and also, man, I can't wait for this all to be over?
Yeah, no, it's a great sense of pride and an accomplishment. And you know, when you have $311 million worth of construction projects going on at the same time, that it just doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of great people, collaboration, vision, donors, like Paula and Alejandra Foster and Jeremy and Christy Fudge and all of the donors and, the campus, our people here in facilities and, JD and Patrick and Henry and Drew and just everybody. And so it is a sense of pride and there's some inconvenience, as you know, that goes with it when we think about just the practice fields and, having to work around and not being able to use the indoor at all, right now. But I think, if you had to poll everybody, we would certainly tolerate and be okay with the inconvenience, knowing what the end product is going to be like. And so just grateful, sometimes you almost take it for granted that we have all of these projects going on at the same time. And so just, hopefully want to take some moments to be grateful because not everybody's doing this across the country. And I think, specifically when we think about both the Foster Pavilion and the Fudge Football Development Center, those are two projects that are really going to position us for the future. And as part of the pavilion as well, the Allison Basketball Development Center, that's a component of the pavilion. So all of that, I think, really helps us as we think forward regarding those programs.
How much input does Dave Aranda have on the football ops building?
Zero. We don't give him any. No, he does. He actually has sat in meetings with the architects, and has been part of those. Not all of them, but some of the sessions. I think just even pre-design, sitting down with him and the football staff to get their thoughts on just things that are important to them and some different nuances. So we absolutely are very intentional about providing an avenue for our coaches to be able to speak into the facilities. Same thing happened with when we think about the pavilion, and certainly the development center part of the pavilion with Scott and Nikki. They've been able to sit and have input. And, we may have shared this, but like in the development center with basketball, and the areas of the locker room, the team lounge, and the film room, academic room, we basically, said to the coaches, here's your square footage. And, it was equal square footage, and you divide it up how you want it, and the adjacencies and even the interior finishes. So we try to give some, our coaches some autonomy in terms of what the spaces become.
It must be nice that you have coaches that like bounce ideas off each other too. I would think Nikki and Scott would be like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that in our side too," wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, I think that there is two-way communication between those programs, both Nikki and Scott, and I think even amongst the assistant coaches. And Dave is really good about I think asking for opinion from his staff. Certainly, him and I have had a lot of conversation. Jovan and him have had a ton of conversation. I think we look at these facilities, one that once in a lifetime, you get one chance to do it right. And so really being intentional, meticulous about doing it right. And then I think we also take it serious, that our donors are investing money into these facilities, and we take that as being really, really serious, and having ownership in making sure that we're using their monies in a really strategic and an efficient way.
So, Mac, I know that from time to time, like John Morris will post a video update with one of the architects or construction guys and all of that. I don't recall, though, the last one that I saw. So could you give us an update just sort of on the timeline, the way that it is now, as far as what you guys are expecting with all that construction over there, and kind of how that all is operating at the moment on the calendar?
Yeah, so I think, the good news with the pavilion, it's on track, for us to, host a first basketball game, a men's basketball game in the pavilion the first week of January 24. And so not too long from now. What is that, 9 months, I think? But that we'll host, again, that first week. And, we're working with certainly the Big 12 for both men's and women's basketball and what that first week looks like. So that I think, at least right now, we're on track for that. The development center portion of the pavilion. So what am I talking about? The practice gym, the locker rooms, the team lounges, the academic spaces, the offices, the weight room, the athletic medicine area, all of those areas. That won't open up until, the spring, summer of 24, which is, probably perfect timing, because basketball, couldn't move into those spaces, during the season. And then, football, right now, I think we're scheduled to be able to use the indoor, be back in the indoor for fall camp. So right around, the end of July, July 31st. And then we expect, the Allison Indoor and the Fudge Football Development Center to be completed, probably late spring, summer of 24. So everything right now is on track and scheduled to be completed as we at least originally thought it would be completed by.
How difficult is it to know that the Final Four, both of them, are in your backyard, in Houston for the men and Dallas for the women, and you're not there as far as either of your programs?
Yeah, it's difficult because, we've talked about it, maybe even as recent as last week that, we've got really, really high standards for both programs. And I think that's a positive. I never look at that as a negative when you think about standards or you use the word expectations from external constituents, from, our fan base, the Baylor family. I think that's all positive. And, I think we've built both programs, whereas if they both don't go to a Final Four, then it's a disappointment. And so I think, in many ways that's a positive. That's the standard. It's what we're all striving for and reaching for. And yet if you don't make it, you've got to balance perspective and really, be grateful that we've had successful season, each of the programs that they went to postseason. But it's also, an opportunity to look deep within and say, all right, what's missing? How do we get better? How does each one of the programs get better and move forward so that, next year, hey, we can talk about the programs being in the Final Four. So, but yeah, it's certainly difficult and you certainly think about what could have been.
Do you have a new appreciation for how hard, like even having done it and seen both programs do it, how hard it is when it doesn't happen? Because I can't, I try to describe it. My fiance is a huge Kansas fan. She gets so disappointed that they lost. I'm like, you should know it's hard. It was 2008 till 22 between national championships. It's hard, Mac, and I don't think fans really get how hard it really is.
Yeah, it's hard because there's just some things you don't control, right? If you were able to control your destination, in all ways, then maybe it's a little bit less hard. But there's so many things that you don't control. You don't control injury, right? You could have an injury, in the tournament, itself that impacts you. You could have, an individual or two sick and not feeling well, and so not able to play to the best of their ability. There's, some matchups that you have an advantage. There's some matchups where, man, that's just, when you look at 1 through 5, yeah, we were a better team. We're ranked higher, more wins, right? But that's just a really tough matchup for us in terms of the way they play and their personnel. So there's so many different things where you're playing, that particular game. So there are just a bunch of different, factors that certainly play a part in your trajectory and getting to the Final Four. So it is hard, and so you better certainly appreciate when you get there. But then we're all competitors and we all want to be elite, and our standard is how do we get back? And so that's the fight, that's the chase that we're in right now.
Are you surprised? Obviously, Jerome Tang took Kansas State right to the edge, and it was a tough loss. Kim at LSU is in the Final Four. Are you surprised by that quickly?
No, I'm not. Quite frankly, I think that you've got a combination of a handful of things. Like Kim's not in the Hall of Fame because she's a bad coach, right? She's won 3 national championships. She's a great coach, and I think that combination with LSU and resources, support, and so you bring those two things together. Certainly, very active in the name, image, and likeness space, and again, they've got not just the infrastructure, but also donor base to be able to do some of those things. And so, that combination of the two, it really doesn't surprise me. And then, I think Jerome's journey, because, we've all been around Jerome and we know Jerome, and doesn't surprise me at all. He had, if you thought about the best 5 players in the Big 12 this year, he had 2 of those 5 on his roster, and good for him that he was able to be able to have those 2 and then put together the other pieces, and so that doesn't surprise me at all, and his ability to coach. Didn't surprise me, and certainly happy for him.
Grant McCasland and North Texas tonight are playing in the NIT semifinal. I know that I'm not asking you to get ahead of the curve, but have you had coaches, or ADs, around the country ask you about him? North Texas wants to keep him. They hope they have at least 2 more games with him, but there is smoke out there about some other places. Has anyone ever asked you much about Grant McCasland?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you which
I didn't ask you to do that.
Which institution, but yeah, I think in the process of a coaching search, right? Everybody's doing their due diligence or trying to do their due diligence as best they can, and so calling people that might have a an idea or two, or had direct contact with or have worked with candidates, and I've not worked with Grant. He wasn't here when I got here, but certainly know of him and have been around him, and I think because I'm at Baylor, and even though our pathways didn't cross, I've had people call and ask my thoughts about him, and by the way, it goes without saying, he's a terrific coach and a terrific person, and certainly obviously part of the Scott Drew tree.
By the way, I had somebody on the chat room ask this question: how much, you have football, you have men's basketball, and that's all your revenue right there. That doesn't mean something else doesn't come in the picture, but how much time do you try to divide among all of the sports that are underneath your umbrella when it comes to sports that are non-revenue sports compared to men's basketball and football?
Yeah, that's a tug of war. That's a struggle for me, at least. And I'm sure there's other athletic directors out there that do it better than me. But I think where I'm at, and some of the stuff that I'm involved with at the conference level, and the NCAA deregulation items, and it occupies a lot of time, and then just the daily, running a Power 5 athletic department, and so I try my best. I can't be at every men's tennis match. I can't be at every softball game. I can't be at every baseball game. I can't be at every A&T meet, but I try to go to as many as I can, track and field, at least, make a presence. It's important it's important for me that our student athletes know that they're important to me personally, and that goes for our coaching staff, our head coaches, and assistant coaches. It's hard. It's a daily, like it is. It's just a daily tug of war, and so how do you do all of that? And thankful that we've got great staff and sport program administrators that are in the trenches with their head coaches and student athletes for all of our 19 sport programs.
Mac, we were talking earlier about one of the headlines today. The U.S. gambling industry is adopting a marketing code that will ban sports books from partnering with colleges to promote sports wagering. Without getting into all of the details of that, I was just curious because there's already so much that's on your plate, and I know each state is different, just like with NIL or anything else, but where is sports betting and college sports and all of that on your radar and just in general on the industry's radar? What kind of a road do you think we're headed down here? What are some of the perils? What are some of the benefits?
Yeah, and so as we know, right, it's become legal, and literally cannot remember the exact, but it's 33 states right now. Is it 33?
Yep.
Okay, where it's legal, and I think there's another 7 or 8 that it's in the middle of the legislative process, and so it's part of college sports. I think in the next 2 years, the amount of money when we think about football and men's basketball, that figure is about $1 billion, and that's expected to double when we think about the future. So it's very much a part of our lives, and I think where it's becoming even more intimate is the whole conversation and discussion about real-time data and this data collection that's provided to the sports books. When you think about the betting lines and in-game betting, etc. And so you've got these on all of our campuses. Whether we know it or not, we've got these unofficial data collectors that are providing this information to all of these sport books. And so are we at a point in time where instead of unofficial data collectors, do we do something with official data collectors? If they're getting that data and they're giving it to sports books, do we do something more formal with a company that does that and can provide some structure and some integrity, and is there revenue in that? And so those are the real conversations that we're having right now when it comes to just gambling on college athletics.
Mac, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Thanks for, again, being a part of the show.
Gentlemen, appreciate you. Thank you.
Mac Rhoades, Director of Athletics on 365 Sports, with many things. And, again, I was over there today to watch. I was going to get there for the media session. It was running a little bit late. Football practice was going on. Cranes, massive piles of dirt. And that was after driving by the pavilion, which is pretty much the shell is up. It's pretty busy, and that's why the pro day yesterday was at Midway High School just down the road on the southern part of Waco.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier that, gambling's not my forte, although I don't judge. But I figured, get the perspective of a guy who's knee-deep in the impact potentially on college sports and all that would entail. And doubling $1 billion in a short amount of time, you can best believe that this is not something that's just a flash in the pan. I mean, nobody thought that to begin with, but I understand it's only going to be more and more involved, and to what extent, they're going to have to be careful. So good to get his perspective. And, we've heard them talk about that data collecting and what that could mean for the Big 12 and, increasing the amount of money per school and things like that. So the money's flowing everywhere, and that's just going to be, part of the deal moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see how they maneuver around that.
Mellencamp, Mr. Monkey says, and others, by the way, couldn't get to all of what you wanted asked. I think Mr. Monkey says, can you ask if Big 12 is considering adding multiple basketball, non-football schools? We actually brought that up with him, I think, even a couple of weeks ago. Not just the Gonzaga note, but maybe someone else. And then Mellencamp asked about if he thought the possible timeline for the next Big 12 expansion, could it even get to the possibility of 20 teams? I think they got to get past 12 before they surely start talking about 20, but we do know how the future of athletics in college and what that might be with the arms race for conferences.
Yeah, I understand. Not everybody can. And my segment's next, so I'll take my time here.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I don't have. And I think you hit some of the topics at the beginning, so there's not a lot to try and squeeze in here in that next segment. But to answer your question about Mac and the questions you asked, I'm not going to outright say yeah, we're doing this or that. But he's already said on record nothing's happening that's going to be their move. The next thing that drops isn't the Big 12 grabbing this school and that school, or the Big 12 doing this or doing that. The next thing before we get to anything the Big 12 does is what the Pac-12 does. Right, fellas? I mean, That's the thing. That's the thing. And then all the other questions about will they do this or won't they do that, that'll be answered entirely by the Pac-12 decision, because if the Pac-12 comes back with some lowly number that's unimaginable and there's teams that are like, nope, not doing that, then the party gets started and you start to hear more of the smoke around, the Arizona schools, for example, or Arizona in particular. But if they're fat and happy, or they're at least fat enough and happy enough to stick around and make it work, which is kind of where my brain has gone the entire time, then you pivot, and then you start to look at probably your Fresno States and whoever else you want to throw into that mix. And as far as the basketball side of that, he's on record saying that they're open to the idea and they're exploring, Gonzaga. We know that for a fact that they've looked into that. Beyond that, he did say they would not take any school that's a football school or a school that plays football, but take them as basketball only. So, Gonzaga would work because they don't have football, but they're not taking Villanova basketball and not taking Villanova football. So that's one thing that you could scratch off, is that they're not taking a basketball-only team that also plays football. It won't work like that. So hopefully that answers your question as best as possible, because the rest of it is all to be determined. Again, starting with that Pac-12 TV deal, that's where everything kind of starts and stops. But I think I kind of addressed the rest of it.
So, for example, UConn would be the one that people ask about a lot, them taking, but they would take football as well. I think that the next iteration of where college sports, because it's going to have to keep a lot of the Olympic sports and all that alive, is the conference, like it is in some sports, where you're in kind of the Pac-12 for one sport, but you're in the WCC for some other ones, because that's just the conference that offers it, and that's travel, and that's the budget that exists. I think that's probably going to be maybe wider spread across the board, where it's going to be very regional, and then football and basketball kind of live on their own thing.
Little islands.
Future,
that's and I say that's kind of probably 2-3 iterations of what it's going to be.
Yeah. Don't use that word twice. That's too much.
But it just, you go here and here, and then you look into the future if they're always going to be going money grabs, then eventually, once they figure out how to make all the money they can out of everything, then everything else will have to be put into other boxes.
Yeah, and that probably is down the line. You got Title IX and other things you'd have to deal with when it comes to that. So that would be, I would think, football and basketball branching off into CBAs and collective, the collective bargaining agreement and that kind of territory. And that's where you might see all right, these things are no longer clearly equal in any, real ways. Let's stop pretending like they are. That could happen. But to answer the question, the Big 12's, their stance, Mac Rhoades has said it 50 times. So there wasn't a point in asking him about it today, because not much has changed from the last couple of weeks, really. They're just waiting. That's what they're doing. They're waiting and seeing, and whatever happens with the TV contract out west, that will determine what the next move is. So that's what to watch for as far as the Big 12 and expansion goes, because that will be the domino that leads them one way or the other as far as the schools involved.
Ready to make a decision once a decision elsewhere is made. Wild Ute, thank you for being a part of the chat. 165 days until Baylor plays Utah in football. Excited about the matchup. I think you think Utah's a pretty good favorite in that game as of now and probably the week of that game. You want to do off the radar?
And got a draft announcement to talk about on the basketball side of things that is now official.
Okay. We'll come back. Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. This is 365 Sports. I was actually on the phone before the show today with Stonewood Dental. I have my I have my every, 6 months or so teeth cleaning. But all of a sudden, the other day, I bit into one of those little mints. And I felt like, man, that seems like that's more than the mint. A part of my next to the last bottom right molar feels like there's something that may have chipped off. No pain, no issues other than the fact I got to be careful about getting anything down in that crack. But I called them and I said, hey, I need to get that looked at. And they were like, okay, you want to just do that with your next teeth cleaning? Well, that wouldn't be for a while. But they set me up with an appointment. As soon as I got the date and the time, walked back in the studio, sat down on my phone, there was a text about my next appointment with Stonewood Dental and Dr. Steve Childress. They are methodically really good at taking care of the customer, and Dr. Steve Childress will take care of whatever that is. Thank goodness no pain right now, because sometimes you crack a tooth and you'll feel it, and you got to even take some sort of a numbing type medicine or whatever it might be. So I have an appointment set up with him to have that checked, and he is the best dentist you could get. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for Off the Radar. Normally around 4:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just taking a look at various stories around sports that we haven't touched on or otherwise would not even really get into. And right before the break, teased there was a draft announcement to get to. And here in the last few minutes, a big decision, but not one by any means that is much of a surprise. But Baylor freshman Keonte George has officially declared for the NFL draft. NBA draft, excuse me. Projected as a lottery pick and has been for the last several months. But, yeah, he is going ahead and making it official. He doesn't have Twitter, so I guess he posted his graphic on his Instagram page, and then his mother posted a picture of the graphic on Instagram. Wanted to thank his Lord and Savior, and without him, nothing would be possible. Also said, growing up, it was always my dream to play for a school that felt like home and treated me like family. I was blessed to find that at Baylor. He thanked his coaches and teammates for making him the best version of himself. Thanked the fans for taking in a kid from Louisville and treating him like one of their own, and said that he's forever grateful, but that he has decided to declare for the 2023 draft after a lot of conversations with family and coaches. And he put that under the headline, God's timing. I think this is the timing that God and everybody else figured Keonte George would have at Baylor and in Waco and before the NBA. So y'all's thoughts on Keonte George officially declaring?
Yeah, he's probably a lottery pick because he can score. I mean, like, there's no the other parts of his game are going to have to be developed, as opposed to a lot of guys where, you know, like, I'll just give you the example of Ben Simmons, who's a ridiculous guy, draft pick, and has been essentially, in my opinion, a bust everywhere he's gone, but still makes it. They had to teach him how to score as opposed to doing some of the other things. Keonte George has got to learn how to do the other things, but he can put it in the bucket. So yeah, I think he'll do well. I just hope, and this is what I hope for every athlete that gets drafted anywhere, that when you get drafted, the organization that drafts you knows what they're doing, and that's one of the hardest guarantees, because sometimes you can wind up going to a place like the Warriors, who, even though you might have gotten drafted later, they know what they're doing, right? So you pretty good. And other times you go to the Orlando Magic and you think, what did I do to deserve this? I worked really hard, but there you go. So
yeah, I know it did not end great because he was kind of beat up. He talked about he'd never played with so much tape on his ankle. Did not have a spectacular finish, but you can see what the NBA scouts see. And maybe his game is even more built for the NBA style, although there is the possibility he has to kind of, go through some lumps and maybe some hurdles before he gets to that point. But him declaring, by no means, as you said, is any kind of surprise.
No, not at all. So that is now official, and got asked a question in here about whether he hired an agent. I didn't see anything about that. I would assume that he has. I've thought since he signed that he was going to be in the NBA draft a year later, so I think that's pretty much holding true, and perhaps he hasn't, but I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. Did we get into the World Baseball Classic ratings? I feel like I didn't know if I mentioned that.
You mean the 100% Japanese television sets that were on when they beat the United States? No.
Yeah, Team Japan beat the United States 3-2 last week. That broadcast on Fox Sports 1 averaged 4.48 million viewers. You combine that with Fox Deportes and also the streaming, and that added another several 100,000 to get to 5.2 million viewers, according to Fox, higher than all but 3 of the AL and NLDS games in 2022. Also had better average viewership than Game 5 of the NLCS between the Phillies and Padres. It surpassed the big Bryce Harper 2-run homer in the 8th inning game. Some of y'all might remember that contest, surpassed that number. And for perspective, the 2017 final had just 3.1 million that had U.S. and Puerto Rico in the final. In 2013, they had a little over 1 million, I believe, for the Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic game. So yeah, it's a big jump, or at least it was 2 million more than the Puerto Rico Dominican Republic. But anyways, it was successful. 4+ million viewers. And get up to the 5 range if you start to count everything in between. But, yeah, fantastic success. And there's a breakdown from the Sports Video Group on all of the merchandise sales and the various individual ratings. And it's actually it's a lot to digest, but it seems like this was a massive success. The March 10th Japan versus Korea game on TBS registered a 44.4 rating, making it the most watched game in the history of the World Baseball Classic in any country. Outrated all sports competitions during the Tokyo Olympics. Japan's first 4-round games averaged a 42.3 rating in the country. Korea had off-the-chart ratings as well. Basically, everywhere you look, there was a massive increase. So are y'all buying in the World Baseball Classic?
Oh, yeah.
We've done a few of these now. This isn't like the second one by any means. These have been going on. We're the 5th one, I think we just wrapped up. I believe that's right.
It kind of disappeared on my radar, and it got back on it this year. It did.
So it's back up for you.
No question. I thought it was just terrific. I didn't have any problems with it. It's unfortunate about a couple of the injuries, but I thought there were times I sat there and watched more baseball maybe than I in the week of that stretch than I might even the first week of the Major League season, which starts at the end of the week.
Yeah, like I said, there you can go country by country. They get into merchandise sales, but everything just shooting way up for every country participating, basically. And yeah, 5.2 across FS1, Fox Deportes, and streaming. Saw 5.2 million saw Japan beat the U.S. Most watched WBC game ever here in the United States. Final average 4.5. Most watched WBC game ever on a single network. Most watched telecast on FS1 since the NLCS that I mentioned. And at one point, viewership on Deportes and FS1 combined for 6.5 million viewers for a 15-minute window late in that game. So just on and on and on, a massive success for the World Baseball Classic. And, of course, Team Japan that took home the title with the incredible Shohei Ohtani strikeout of MLB teammate Mike Trout. So a lot of good stuff coming out of that. All right, elsewhere, and a lot of this is just TV ratings because we touched on a lot of other stuff, but last week it was bad news for the XFL. They did not even average 400,000 viewers for a single game, and that is not good. That is not good even for just your average shows. I mean, that's not a number that's really going to hold you up all that well. But good news for them is they got back up over the million mark thanks to Seattle and Orlando's regular season contest on Saturday that brought in a little over 1 million viewers. Now, what do you guys think that the big adjustment was from less than 500,000 viewers, and then a week later they get back over a million?
Well, there's less basketball on.
Maybe some of that, but not quite just that.
Oh, no.
The game was on ABC.
Ah, okay.
It's almost like networks matter. I'm told otherwise sometimes. But, yeah, the game was back on ABC. The first game on ABC since week 1. Got them back over 1 million viewers. Largest audience since, guess what? The previous ABC game in week 1 that had 1.57 million. So they dropped 500,000 viewers from week 1 to this latest week. But no coincidence that both those games were on ABC. It was originally supposed to be on ESPN, but got bumped because of some schedule changes. So that did bring them in higher than some of the other, not basketball, but like the NHL games, for example, that were on at the same time. Caps and Pens was on ABC primetime, and it eventually brought in more viewers than that. So that held up well in comparison to some of the other sports in a similar setting. But yeah, being on ABC definitely made a difference. Then on Sunday, also ABC carried San Antonio and Arlington. That got 753,000 viewers, and that one, the second largest audience since week 1, but was carved into by March Madness. So March Madness did play a role, but being on a bigger network did matter, and the competition, mattered a little bit as well. But that Sunday audience, the lowest ever for an XFL game on broadcast television. So it wasn't all good news, but that was, again, NCAA affected. And there was, a comparison to last year. Last year, we didn't have the XFL. We had the USFL, and it still made out better than those numbers. So I know you guys haven't gotten into that. You haven't been into that the last 5 weeks. I don't think you're into it at this point.
I watched it a little, but I mean,
it's good background.
I've seen a couple of highlights on my Twitter timeline, but that's about it.
It's good background. Like, I don't necessarily watch it as a diehard fan, but it's just a casual thing. Then, yeah, I'm absolutely into it. And by the way, former Baylor running back Abram Smith is leading the league in rushing. So he's doing well for himself. Yeah, healthy lead in rushing and doing so for the DC Defenders. You mentioned earlier, you kind of touched on this. Again, ratings is kind of the story right now because we've covered a lot of the other stuff. But across the board, ratings numbers down in comparison to like last year and some of the bigger events for March Madness, as the Elite Eight was filled with, half the teams are not traditional powerhouses. But Miami, Texas averaged 6.1 rating. That's 11.3 million viewers, like 11 plus million viewers. That's fantastic, but it's down 16% from the year prior, 17% in comparison to North Carolina and St. Peter's. It was also the lowest rated and least watched elite game in the late Sunday window since 2016, which was North Carolina versus Notre Dame. You take out 2016, the least watched in that window since North Carolina and Oklahoma back in 2009. So definitely a bit of a drop in the numbers for Miami and Texas in comparison to some of the other more recent games in that window. But, yeah, you saw that kind of across the board, 8.34 million for San Diego State and Creighton. That was down 12 percentage points from Kansas-Miami last year. Least watched early Sunday elite game since 2016. So, as you pointed out, that the number's fallen for March Madness, and that makes me wonder. It does make me wonder because it's kind of like the gambling thing. Like, if you do it and you like it, enjoy it, sports ratings, like some people are into it, some people are not. I'm going to watch the Final Four regardless, but I am curious to see like what we are talking about when it comes to interest levels, had it been a couple of other teams versus who we'll probably end up getting.
Well, I mean, St. Peter's versus North Carolina was a blue blood who had, kind of fallen ass backwards into the tournament and then gone on a run against, the one of the best stories ever with St. Peter. So I think there's a lot of interest in that game. And, I was kind of surprised on Miami and Texas that it got lower ratings than that, just because Texas is a big, gigantic brand. Miami's in the ACC, and, they were in the Elite Eight last year, and people should know their coach, but I guess just didn't dust it up,
Yep, but meanwhile, there is good news on the ratings front, and that is for the women's tournament. The Elite Eight up over 43% from last year. As far as viewership goes, 2.2 million viewers. The Louisville-Iowa game, the most viewed Elite Eight game on ESPN's record. Tournament to date up 42% year over year. They get into like numbers consumed and all of that, but 2.5 million viewers for Louisville and Iowa, peaked at 2.7 million. Games are averaging around 660,000 viewers, and you look at now the two top audiences ever on ESPN and ABC. Both of those occurred this year with that Iowa-Louisville game, but also in the Sweet 16, Ohio State and UConn pulled in 2.4 million. They also pulled in the sixth best audience with Virginia Tech, Ohio State, the seventh best audience with South Carolina and Maryland. So they're eating good over at the worldwide leader, as women's basketball has got a healthy dose of Dawn Staley and what South Carolina's doing. And you got, Caitlin Clark in Iowa, and you've got Mulkey in LSU. And, there's a little bit more parity. It's not necessarily just Geno and UConn running over everybody, even though Baylor would jump in there every once in a while, and certainly South Carolina has as well. But while you're seeing numbers go down for NCAA tournament, things like that, World Baseball Classic, very good, and Women's Basketball Tournament, very good as well.
There will be probably the largest audience to watch the Women's Final Four this weekend, and perhaps one of the smallest audiences to watch the Men's Final Four because of the teams involved. Not that I'm going to watch it no matter who the hell's playing, but I mean, overall, the nationwide type numbers will be that way.
Yep, and I'll go ahead and just leave it right there. I'll save some stuff for Thursday, but didn't want to go necessarily all ratings, but that's kind of what we have as far as options today. So, just interesting to take a look at kind of how the March Madness tournament has ebbed and flowed, but definitely got to love those numbers on the women's side of things, and there's a few things off the radar.
Okay, we're going to come back. Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive, and then also John Machota from the NFL meetings. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Go to marcos.com for numerous specials they have with code words that you can order online or through your app on the phone. There are 5 locations in Waco. Marco's Pizza, the fastest growing pizza chain or franchise, I guess you could say, brand in America. There used to be none here. Now there are 5, thanks to Bob Mock, the owner, with locations in Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and Robinson. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
During Ram Truck Month, get incredible deals on Ram trucks at Allen Samuels in Waco. Come see why Ram continues to win awards year after year. Browse online or come shop the greatest selection of new car and truck inventory in stock today at Allen Samuels.
This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. But when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs. Knowing you, that's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Step Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Bob Thompson, retired president, Fox Sports Networks, Big Ten Network co-founder. Of course, he's a consultant. Also, Thompson Sports Group joins us on 365 Sports. And, Bob, there really hasn't been much change other than perhaps chatter, some quotes, or whatever else. Are you surprised, or if I would have asked you this maybe a year ago, would the Pac-12 be in this position closing out March? Would you have been surprised if that was the case?
Well, first of all, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
As far as would they be in this place, if you'd asked me a year ago, I would say no. But I also think kind of now that they're in this place, it's like, okay, so what's the hurry now?
Mm-hmm.
They're the only ones out there doing a deal. And it appears, at least based on certain presidents who are making comments, everybody's going to stick around and see at least what that deal is. So if I'm the commissioner and his consultant, I'm making sure it's the best possible deal I can get to show to these presidents so that they'll absolutely stay. But to jump now, while it might set off a series of domino effects around the country, I don't see why you do it. If you've waited this long, you might as well wait and see the deal.
Bob, with so many companies having layoffs and budget cuts and, Bob Iger saying, look, they got to really look at what they spend money on. Is this just the worst time to be negotiating a big money rights deal because of those things?
Well, it certainly doesn't help, but you also have to think that this deal doesn't even start for 18 months, and things could be, significantly different in 18 months. But having the economic issues hanging over your head and having to be probably a little more selective in what product you ultimately purchase, certainly it makes it difficult for the companies selling rights unless you're, say, the NFL.
Bob, how complex do you think this is behind the scenes in terms of, obviously we don't know who all's involved to the fullest extent. We just know what's kind of been reported out there and who may or may not be, interested to what levels. But how complicated does this get when you're dealing with multiple different companies potentially?
It's certainly more companies adds to the complexity, and new companies who may not have had history in collegiate sports broadcasting complicates it even further. There's a variety of things that have to be resolved that are interrelated, selection process being the primary. And then just getting to an actual contract, especially for the folks that haven't had one before. It's a different animal. It's different than a professional contract. And it's got a lot of intricacies that have to be worked through. And so I can see how that would take time, longer than if, say, it was just a renewal with ESPN and Fox.
What were your thoughts, President Robbins in Arizona making the comments? And he's like, listen, we're in this, but we still need the numbers. And I think that's kind of just smart, and that's what everyone should think. But he mentioned something about April the 15th. And you just mentioned a minute ago, if you haven't gotten it done by now, what is the rush? Would there be a timeline, even if it's 18 or 24 months down the road for you? Is there a date that you think that there needs to be at least some sunshine?
I would think, certainly in the next month and a half at the max. You also have to take into consideration if you're talking about Arizona or Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, any of the schools. One of the likely spots would probably be the Big 12. Well, their deal doesn't start for another year and a half or 2.5 years, I believe. So it's not a real hurry. Whoever, if you commit, you're still committed. If you commit somewhere else, you're still committed to the Pac-12 for the next 18 months because that's when your deal doesn't expire till then. So your grant of rights goes through that point, and you're going to have to play through those games anyway. So I think certainly the athletic directors are and the presidents are doing the absolute right thing for their institutions. They're not ruling anything out. They'd certainly like to see things stick together, I believe, but they're also, at some point it's every man for themselves here, and so they're probably having discussions, and they'd be very prudent to have those discussions because you have to make alternate plans just in case something happens that triggers the necessity for you to take action.
Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports CEO, president with us, consultant, has his own company as well, right here on 365 Sports.
Bob, how surprised would you be if the deal is, say, what one of the things has been reported, like majority Apple, like Apple's MLS deal, where there are some sellbacks of over-the-air games to, well, I guess MLS is with Fox, but where Apple controls the inventory and maybe takes it off of the Pac-12 soldiers to sell it, because that would seem to maybe to get that number that they want that would be bigger than the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a concept that's been floating around out there, and it's interesting. I think that would, if it went that way, it probably means that the deal is going to have a heavy tilt towards streaming, because you don't go buy the entire thing to sell off 75% of it or even 50% of it. So, my guess is that's the way they go, that it's probably going to have a streaming tilt to it. And that's going to upset some people because it's just, streaming is just not quite at that point from on the sports side of things that it's going to fulfill everybody's, dreams and wishes. The coaches aren't going to be real thrilled about it. I can tell you that right now. Some of the ADs probably won't as well. And there's going to be some fans who'll be upset as well. So, I think technically the streaming portion works. And, I've watched some of the MLS stuff that's been on Apple, and also the games have been sub-licensed to Fox. And the production is great. The play-by-play and the colors fantastic. So I think, technically it seems to work. No buffering or any problems like that on the Apple TV games. So I think, it's just not quite time to be that heavy on the streaming side, and there will be some pushback if that is in fact the case.
The not time part leads into my question. Where do you think we are, just in general, Bob, with live sports and the timeline, the incorporation of streaming? You hear a lot of people that are pro-streaming saying, like, it's inevitable, that's the direction everything's going, and as you mentioned, sports is just kind of lagging behind a bit, but where are we? Is that something that you think is inevitable, that sports will be just like every other thing and be mostly streaming in 5-10 years? Where do you stand on that?
Well, my thought has been this, and that is, right now the pay TV bundle, cable, satellite, whatever you want to call it, is dropping a couple of points a year. I think it's going to ultimately bottom out in the low 50s. 50 million homes, 55 million homes. And then I think at that point it's going to be fairly stable. Well, that means there's another 65 million homes in the United States that are getting their content basically via streaming services. And by that, I'm talking about the Apple TV Pluses and the Netflixes and the Prime Videos, things like that. I'm not talking about things like Fubo or YouTube TV or Hulu Plus Live TV, because to me those are just different forms of cable television. They just happen to be delivered, to your house via the internet instead of through a cable. So at that point, then you have to look and say, okay, how much are these streaming services going to have to charge to actually, have a true business? I think you've seen recently that certainly the investment community has started to make expectations of the streaming services such as Disney and some of the others that they need to be, not just thinking about how many subscribers you have, but how are these subscribers going to ultimately create a profit for your business? And so I think that if they really want to get to that, they're going to have to start charging more. And when you start putting together the 3 or 4 or 5 streaming services that you need to have, assuming sports are all over there, you're not far off the cable, the cost of the cable bundle. And at that point, you got to say, wow, I mean, right now, the bulk of the sports is on the cable bundle. So if I'm going to pick one over the other, assuming I can't have all things that have sports, I'm probably going to stay with the bundle because it's certainly easier to navigate through, and the bulk of the sports are still there. And I think, if you look forward at the deals that have been done through 2030, in the case of the NFL, through 2034 or 2033, I think it is, the bulk of the top sports is still going to be on broadcast TV, linear, cable, the typical bundle as it's been known in the past.
I don't know if I've asked you this before, or have you ever negotiated with streamers?
No, that the only thing I used to negotiate for was with Major League Baseball on rights for the local teams, so that they couldn't distribute games in our home territories on MLB.com. But no, the streamers, they didn't really exist back in my day.
I wasn't sure if that was even part of the conversation.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I feel privileged for that. I had enough trouble just dealing with FoxSports.com.
Having said that, with the Major League Baseball, what you just said, how concerned should they be about all these regional sports networks, bankruptcy and all of what's going on? I know there might be a hearing or a trial around the corner with that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess right now. And I think, opening day is going to prove interesting. I think the Valley Sports Group has a payment due to the Padres like at midnight the day before opening day. So if that's tomorrow at midnight. So, I think baseball's been pretty clear going forward that the games are going to be produced and the games will be distributed. The question is just going to be how. Are they going to be streamed? Are they going to streamed on MLB.com or MLB.tv? Are they going to be distributed via the satellite and cable guys through, say, MLB Extra Innings? A lot of that's left to be determined. But I truly think that Valley's is the intention is they want to come out of this. Otherwise, they'd have filed Chapter 7 as opposed to Chapter 11. And they've made a couple of hires of some folks that certainly wouldn't be getting into this thing if they were just going to try and liquidate it. But it is a complicated process. There's a lot of creditors involved, and it's going to take some time to figure out. But I'm pretty comfortable saying that on Thursday, I think the games are all going to show up. You might have to search for them a little bit, but baseball's prepared to produce them if the others contractual companies don't produce them.
Hey, Bob, always incredible to have you. Your insight, information, experience, and all of that. We appreciate it. Your opinions as well. Love following you on Twitter. We try to bring as many angles and opinions as we can, and yours, of course, was one we were able to tap into a year ago or so, and we appreciate that very much.
My pleasure, guys. Always happy to help.
Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports president, CEO, on the constant what's next. And I thought he said you wouldn't think that it would go past, with what's happening with the Pac-12, you'd not want it to go past another month and a half. Probably you would think by the end of April, which starts on Saturday. So there's Bob Thompson. We've had Bob, Jim Williams, Tim Brando tomorrow, his thoughts about a lot of this, and, of course, Patrick Crakes as well. Well, one of the stories we had for you that Craig had during the Off the Radar, that's a breaking story, that Keonte George, Baylor freshman, is committed to enter the NBA draft, and Keonte George joins us right now on 365 Sports. Keonte, thanks for your time. Everyone kind of had an idea this day was coming. What has it been like for you now that it's official, you're entering the draft?
Yeah, man, it's just a big-time blessing. Not everybody gets the opportunity, to enter their name in the draft. So, for me to have that type of opportunity, I'm not going to take advantage of it. Just going to continue to, keep working and, just want to express, how appreciative I am for, the city of Waco.
Keonte, are there butterflies now? I mean, this was your plan. I mean, obviously, to be able to do this and gain experience and be ready for the NBA draft after a year in college. Are there butterflies right now? Are you excited? Are you calm? What's it like?
Yeah, it's just, it's not butterflies. It's, of course I'm excited. I'm just ready to, go on with the process, because, it's every kid's dream to, be able to make it to the NBA. And, I know how much work I've put in to, work to fulfill that goal that I set in place for myself. And, at this time it's right here. So, I'm taking it very seriously, just excited, to continue to work on my game and, show what I'm about.
Keonte, when you look back at the last several months of last year, how quickly did that college career go by in your eyes? Or did it feel like maybe it was a little while longer than it actually was? Or was it more of a blink of an eye?
Man, wish it was a little bit longer. But, it kind of, it went by fast. A lot of people told me it was going to go by really fast, but, I didn't know it was going to go by this fast. So, it just felt like yesterday we were playing in Canada, trying to figure each other out and try to bond as a team. So, the season went by really fast. But, like I said, I'm grateful to be able to, have the opportunity and, to play with my brothers out there to play with this year.
Keonte, what was the biggest challenge you faced playing college basketball? You mentioned the speed of the game and the physicality of it with us when we've had you on before, after games, or even as a guest segment. But what was, in the end, your biggest challenge?
I would just say biggest challenge for me was just the mental side of the ball, mental aspect of the game. Just like I said, just learning different reads, just stuff like that. That was probably my biggest, bump in the road for me, going through this, college experience. But, looking back on it, I learned and I grew from it and, feel like I've, improved very well.
You could have gone to any college program in America. You chose Baylor. Why?
I just chose Baylor just because of, the culture. Our culture is real. Everybody hears about it, sees it. But, each and every day we try to fulfill that. And, that's what we did. And, that's what I seen when I, came on my visits and, numerous conversations with, Coach Drew and the staff. So, that was really my main thing. And, it's a small city. The fans love Baylor. And, I wanted to play for a fan base that, is all about, Baylor. And so, just having those type of people around me each and every day, like I said, it was a blessing.
How much and I know we're not asking you to bring up any names because you can't, but as now someone who's a part of the Baylor history, as someone that chose Baylor, played for Baylor, have other players who are looking at places to play next year, have they contacted you and asked you about the Baylor program?
Definitely, for sure. Even the guys that are committed, just, asking me what's it like, what should they expect, if there's any, advice I can give them, just stuff like that. So, it's been a lot of kids and that's been, trying to, pick my brain and, see what Baylor's all about. And, I have nothing but great things to say to all of them.
When you think about Baylor, like Alvin Brooks and his role in recruiting you, and obviously you mentioned Coach Drew, but that staff, how much did Coach Brooks have an impact on you?
Yeah, he had a huge impact. I've been knowing him since, who knows how long ago, 7th grade, 8th grade. And, like I said, I was blessed to have that type of relationship with him. Not a lot of people, not a lot of players that are, coming into the college team are able to have that, relationship, with their assistant coach. And, whatever it took, to push me each and every day. He knew, what buttons to push, to get me going. So, I was just blessed to have that type of voice in my ear each and every day. And, he just, like I said, he continued to, just tell me in every aspect of the game. And, he just, prepared me, like I said, for the game of life.
My last question for you, and Paul, you may have another one. This is a decision. You're entering the draft. There's no maybe not, right? This is you're going in all in no matter what, where you are projected or who might draft you.
Yes, sir. I'm all in.
Keonte, when you say you wake up and you're in a bad mood, will you just call Scott Drew?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, we appreciated covering you. We had you on this show a bunch, even back when you committed to Baylor. Always appreciated your time. Go get it. I know you will. Go get your dreams, and thanks for your time, and congratulations on your decision.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
That's it. Keonte George, Baylor freshman guard, with us on 365 Sports, who just like in the last hour, as Craig had during Off the Radar, committed to enter the NBA draft. And there you hear it from him on the decision-making and also what his thoughts are. When we come back, we're not done. We're running a little bit late, but that's great. John Machota from the NFL Owners Meetings, Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, their brand new location on Loop 340 on the east side of 35 in Waco. Bigger, better, faster, and stronger for a company that has been in business since 1943. A company that has given you product and great customer service since 1943, and you, the customer, whether you're a contractor, weekend warrior who builds things, have given them your commitment as well because of what they do. And now they're bigger, better, faster, and stronger. They have so much more for you, and they can get it to you faster because of their larger building, their distribution, different sizes of what they have, which is pipe, metal, steel, and so much more for what you build, commercial and or real estate, and of course, personally as well. It's Pioneer Steel and Pipe, pioneerboys.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
One size fits all.
That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
John Machota, theathletic.com, coming on with us a day early. NFL owners meetings, lots to get to, and we will. John McClain will join us tomorrow, NFL Hall of Fame columnist as well. John Machota with us, with Craig Paul. I'm David Smoak. So the Terrence Steele position, guard, he had a really nice year at right tackle. I know he's coming back from an injury. Is this something, what are your thoughts about that?
I think it sounds interesting right now because they haven't drafted, and I find it hard to believe that they're not going to take a guard at some point. And if they take a guard, then what they'll probably do is they're going to have like a veteran probably start out camp at left guard, hoping that guard that they draft overtakes that position. That just makes more sense to me than trying to move Terrence Steele because frankly, I mean, I think his best spot is right tackle, and he's shown that so far. That's 1. 2, the idea that you think Tyron Smith, he's going to stay healthy at right tackle for a full season. I mean, how many games is that going to be before you need Terrence Steele to go over there? It could be in the very first game. It could be the second series of the first game. So I get doing the position flex thing. I'm always a little leery of putting too much on a guy's plate and all of a sudden moving him around and doing all these different things. Like, if you feel like he's a really good right tackle, keep him at right tackle. And there's a part of it, though, that also makes you wonder, like, does this have anything to do with – I mean, they put a second-round tender on him. He's a restricted free agent. Like, you know, if they just leave him at right tackle, he's going to want to get paid like a starting right tackle, and they don't want to pay that. You know, I mean, you just never know how all this stuff factors in because it just doesn't make sense why you wouldn't just keep Terrence Steele at right tackle.
Yeah, how much of it also is that they're hedging their bets and that he won't be ready necessarily to start the season right away?
No, and that's a good possibility. But even in that case, I'd still rather him just focus on right tackle than mixing in with the guards. You know, I mean, you know, that's the thing. Like they signed. I'm going to say his name wrong. It's like Adogba, who played tackle, who has been a tackle, Chuma Adogba. But they want him to get every chance at left guard. They think he can be a better guard, and so. That'll be a guy that I could see them starting, you know, camp off with. But if you take somebody, I don't think they'll take a guard in the first round, but let's say in the second round, there's a kid out at TCU, Steve Avila. It looks like Avila, A-V-I-L-A. He's a guy who played center last year in 2021, and then this past season he played left guard, and he was probably TCU's best offensive lineman, and they had a good offensive line this past year, and he kind of slots in well with the second round. I saw he did an interview the other day with TMZ saying that he had a visit scheduled with the Cowboys. And so there's a lot that would make sense there if he's there for them, you know, in the late second round. So I could see something like that more so than, you know, necessarily spending a first round pick on the position. But I'll just be very surprised if they don't take an offensive lineman within their first, you know, 3-4 picks.
Yeah, John, I just hope that the Josh Ball experiment can finally, you know, be put to rest because I think that they keep seeing something there, but they're not like it's Matt. Well, let's go too, right? That they like, and then you know after that, you know, kind of filling in. Am I leaving anybody out that might be up for that left guard?
No, I mean Stephen Jones mentioned both of those the other day. That you know that they're hoping, and Jerry Jones did too, that they think that there's enough development there that they can get something on a ball and Waletzko this year. So, yeah, I could see Jerry mentioned Waletzko yesterday as a possibility to get some work at left guard. But like I said, I think that Chuma Idaga would be the guy that they probably will plug in there at first. And if that doesn't go well, then maybe that's when you transition some of these other options. But, it's interesting for me because of the fact of I'm so used to covering the Cowboys where most of their offensive linemen that start are the guys they spent significant picks on. And frankly, when you look at Mike McCarthy's track record in Green Bay, it's not really like that. I mean, he was able to find a lot of good quality starters in the fourth and fifth round. And so I don't get the sense that he feels like they would probably need to, go back-to-back years, first-round offensive linemen. But if the right guard's there, especially, like I said, in that second round, I can see them pulling the trigger.
Anything from Mike McCarthy, anything he has said of late that has caught your attention more than anything else?
Nothing that really. I mean, him today at the very end when he was asked about Terrence Steele and saying that that's something that they're still talking about at guard, that kind of surprised me because I just didn't really think that would be the case. I mean, even Jerry tried to downplay it yesterday by saying, no, Terrence will be more like a swing tackle, but Mike made it seem like everything's on the table there. So I would say that's one thing that kind of stood out to me. But I don't know. I think he's in a tough spot because I don't think he wants to say too much about what he wants to do on the offense and change on the offense because he doesn't want it to be taken in as, oh, this is what we were doing wrong under Kellen. And I think like the big thing like today he was trying to get across is that, even if Kellen came back, every year you're going to make changes on offense. So it wasn't like it was going to be the exact same offense as last year. So, yeah, there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be changes and things like that. But you can just tell that he's kind of guarded about, especially after at the combine, the way his words were taken in kind of a direction he didn't like in terms of like he was talking poorly about Kellen because he does think highly of Kellen. He does think he's a brilliant offensive mind. But like Mike said today, it's like you put three different offensive play callers in a room together trying to run the same offense. They're not all going to call it the same. Everybody has their own, different philosophies. And I'm sure there were plenty of times last season where Kellen made a call on a play that maybe Mike likes a lot, but maybe didn't like it in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that was him as a play caller. That's going to be different. It's going to be stuff that he's going to probably lean on that worked for him in the past and probably manage the game a little bit differently.
It doesn't mean they won't be explosive, but there will be the times to pick and choose when to run up and down the field with your hair on fire.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, I don't think you can just kind of dink and dunk if you have a healthy CeeDee Lamb and a healthy Brandon Cooks and a healthy Michael Gallup. There's just going to be opportunities on the perimeter for big plays, and who knows what they do at tight end. I mean, maybe they don't take an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds. Maybe they take one of these pass-catching tight ends to add something else to the offense. Who knows if what if they sit there at 26 and Bijan Robinson's there? Like, what kind of juice that would add to the offense? So I don't think that he's going to try and he's not trying to run the college offenses where you're going 4 wide and no huddle all the time or anything like that. But I think that there's a possibility after this draft there's enough playmakers around that they can still put up numbers where they're one of the top 5 to 7 offenses in the league. And at the end of the day, as long as they're taking care of the ball and winning games, they'll be fine with it. But like we've talked about in here many times, it's all about how does that translate over to the playoffs? Are they playing their best ball? When we get to January.
Okay, so do you think that there are 2 running backs that the Cowboys would pick in the first round, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs? Or do you think if Bijan's gone, then they maybe just pass on that until later?
Yeah, I think they would pass on. I don't think that they would look at – the thing about Bijan is that he does have those qualities of those, the backs that we've seen go in the top 10, Ezekiel Elliott, the Leonard Fournette, guys like that can do everything. You don't have to take them off the field. I don't know if Gibbs is that same back. I think Gibbs might be a little bit closer to Pollard where you want to complement him with somebody else. So I don't get the sense that they would. I think just Bijan Robinson, if he falls that far, I think it would be hard for them to pass on him just because of what he could add, to that offense. And again, if that pick 26, you're not doing this with a top 10 pick. You're doing it at 26 where, you're at the back end of the first round, but it's also nice because you also get that 5th-year option to have him for 5 years. So no, I don't. I think if he's gone, I think they go in another direction.
They've given out 21 to Stephon Gilmore. I know you know where the question's going. There's still that door cracked open with Zeke. Can you see him coming back to play in Dallas?
I really can. I'd be very surprised if that happened. It wouldn't make sense from anybody's standpoint. I mean, I guess if there was not another team at all that even wanted him and the Cowboys wanted him and he wanted to keep playing football, okay, yeah, maybe. But I think that there'll still be a team that surfaces. I mean, I think he's in a spot right now where a lot of these teams are starting to get in that part of the offseason where, all right, the first couple of weeks of free agency are over. Let's kind of sit and wait here and let's focus on the draft. And then when the draft's over, if there's still some holes that we need to fill or things like that, then let's go after one of these guys. And frankly, I could see Zeke Beam, the guy that even if he isn't with a team when training camp starts, I still wouldn't say that he'll be back with the Cowboys. I think there'll be another team that needs a back. Maybe a back goes down in the preseason or in training camp, and he'll end up with a team that way. It would be too weird. I mean, not only just giving the number away already, but the fact that I feel like if they had real interest in that scenario, then they would have at least offered him some type of pay cut. But Jerry said that was never even offered. An adjustment or anything was, to me, that says, hey, let's just cut this thing and let's part ways clean. Let's not make it anything awkward where, hey, we offered you this and you didn't like it and it was disrespectful and it got ugly. Let's just make this a clean cut. So I just think it's highly unlikely that he would play for them this year.
John, thank you very much. Thanks for jumping on a day early. John Machota on many things Cowboys and also the NFL owners meetings with us today. John McClain will be on with us tomorrow. Tim Brando also. And Paul Mills, the new head coach at Wichita State, will be a part of the show tomorrow. And John Gallagher, about to be hired as the head coach in Manhattan. This is 365 Sports. Paul's Top 5 is next.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue.
Next in line.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 landing spots for Lamar Jackson. It was announced yesterday that he's requested a trade, maybe even a couple weeks ago, according to him. This is, there's always one really dramatic contract negotiation, and this one has been setting up that way for a couple years now. David Hellman on yesterday suggested the 49ers is a great spot. They'd have to trade, future picks because their first pick is until 99. This year, so I wouldn't think that the Ravens would go in for that, especially since you're going to have to maybe draft his replacement unless you feel good with Tyler Huntley for a year and then rolling your dice to try to get in the quarterback derby next year. But here are 5 good landing spots for him. The 5th one is not as feasible, but I do think that the offense they run, given it's the same 49ers offense, would be amazing in the Dolphins. They run the ball a lot, wide zone. Their wide receivers are excellent. Really, kind of what he would need, and he would help put them over the top, maybe in a way that Tua can't. They're not going to do that. They're committed to Tua, but I do think Lamar Jackson in Miami makes a ton of sense, and I believe he is actually from that area too.
Yeah, he is. Mike McDaniel said when asked if they were out of the Lamar sweepstakes, absolutely. So, yeah, he's already put the kibosh on that. Because of that answer. But, yeah, he said absolutely. That's why you pick up a 5th-year option. That's how you do it. That's why you pick the option up as soon as you know you're going to. And he got into more of that. But he said that's a very good player. That's all I know about him. So, yeah, that would be off the table. But, I mean, outside of that, it absolutely makes sense. And, yeah, being from the general area and having a lot of fans down there and, knowing that part of the country, yeah, I mean, you just put 2 and 2 together, that makes a lot of sense. And that'd be fun to watch, man. Him and Tyreek and company, that'd be a lot of fun. But.
Yeah. Talk about football and skates, right?
Yeah, it would be great. Number 4, the Patriots. Robert Kraft himself started this rumor. I mean, by saying Meek Mill texted him about it. I mean, they're not want to usually trade their first-round draft picks and do all that. That's not what they do. But if they're not sold on Mac Jones, that's something you can throw in there. He can be on his way to Baltimore, and they can work that out for the next couple of years so that they don't have to necessarily, because, again, that's the 14th pick this year the Patriots have, so it wouldn't necessarily be kind of a disaster moving up or whatever. But, look, they've got Ramondre Stevenson, really good running game there. Their offensive line is improving. They're getting better. They have better weapons than the Ravens do right now on the outside for them, although, I know that they can still do better. But they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. They still have the tight end Hunter Henry. They brought in Mike Gesicki. So I do think that that's an offense that fits him well, and Bill O'Brien would probably do well with him. But we'll see. I just don't think this is all that likely, and I think that Robert Kraft kind of pulled a Jerry on that one yesterday.
Attention grab?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Get people.
He said it'd be up to Belichick, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how Belichick feels about that, but clearly, Mac Jones isn't impervious to change, and it's not like he's locked down the entire future there in New England. So, yeah, I mean, I could see why they would be interested. I can see why everybody in the league would be interested in Lamar Jackson. But, yeah, I mean, that's for Belichick to, I guess, make that move if that's so desired. But him in New England would certainly spice things up and probably make that place feel the most exciting it's been in a couple of years now. I mean, since Brady left, really, it's been kind of just ho-hum, I mean, quite frankly. So that'd be great for Tyquan Thornton as well. We get Lamar Jackson in there.
Also, I would just love to hear, after a big win, the fan interviews, Lamar is the best quarterback in the league.
Or not. Maybe this is why we shouldn't have this occur.
I just want to hear that. Number 3, the Commanders. I think this would be absolutely 1,000,000% on the table if the team had already been sold. I think it would be. I mean, the Ravens may not want to do it, but the new owner might put them in a position where a team that loves draft capital as much as the Ravens do, and they don't have a lot this year. 22, I think their second pick is not till 87. So a team that could pick up more draft capital, I think that would make a big splash. It would send a message to the fans that, hey, I care more than the previous A-wipe that was owning here. And
Well, he used to go for the splash. They just always went for the wrong splash.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera's pretty much shot this down, hasn't he?
And so is Martin Mayhew. They're committed to Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell, in their quarterback room this year, which is what you say before the draft. And look, if Anthony Richardson or Will Levis fell to 16, which is not going to happen, but if they were sitting there at 16 or if they were sitting there at 13 and the Commanders could go up and get them, believe me, they're gonna.
They're going to think about it.
Yeah, or they're going to think about it. Nobody on their roster is preventing them from making a deal that they want. But I do think this would be great. Again, they're not sending him across the border there and sending half their fans over with them, at least in the short term. Number 2, the Falcons. This one actually feels to me like the most probable of this. And again, they said, we're going to stick with Desmond Ridder. And, Desmond Ridder showed some good things at the end of last year, but that's a team with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts. Probably need a little more in the running game, although Tyler Algiers did really well last year. But I think that's somewhere that fits him really well in that stadium inside where he can run on the turf. Man, that would be fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, apparently Arthur Blank did an interview like a little while ago, said that his situation is very different from Deshaun Watson because the Falcons pursued Deshaun Watson, but they're not really going after Lamar Jackson. He said, different player, different time. You have a winner in Jackson, an MVP in the league. There's no question he's one of the top QBs in the league, but the situation's very different. I'd say there's some concern over how long he can play his style of game. Hopefully a long time, but he's missed 5-6 games each of the last 2 years. Each game counts a lot in our business. So that was from Arthur Blank.
Negotiating comments.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you read into it whatever you want to, quite frankly, from anybody. And I know they named Ridder the starter today. I mean, they named that today. So, I mean, that's great news for – it's like the new Big 12 team there with Algier from BYU and Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. But, yeah, he looked sweet in a Falcons uniform. I know that much. He looked really cool in that all black. But, that's what Arthur Blank had to say. But it is draft season, so believe what you want, as much as you want.
Yeah, and number one, the team that – and Jim Irsay even came out and said that he doesn't do fully guaranteed contracts. He said blah, 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 blah. But the Colts, I almost think, need to do this. Because they have been so bad at or so unlucky at drafting quarterbacks.
That just doesn't fit. That uniform doesn't fit. He can't play there. The shoulder pads are too big.
But he also, think about who the coach is there. It's Shane Steichen, is that how you say it?
From Philly.
From Philly, who ran an offense that and knows how to run the offense that would be best for him. They've got a great running back in Jonathan Taylor. They've got Michael Pittman Jr. there. Obviously would add some more weapons to go around him. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and it's something that is a lot easier for them than what happened, Look, Peyton Manning, done, okay, they draft Andrew Luck, or at least done there. They couldn't run the risk of him not being there. Andrew Luck looks like it's going to work out great, and he's injury-prone. And then in that time, they've had different starting quarterbacks every year.
That's why you should grasp and cherish when you have Peyton Manning and whoever else you might have.
But, yeah, I think the Colts makes a ton of sense, although, the Falcons uniform looks probably better on anybody than the Colts uniform, but I do think that it makes a ton of sense.
That's a traditional uniform. That's like one of the old
Johnny U.
It's fine, but black and red's just a better color pattern, and the black and gray and the way the Falcons do it, I like that a lot. But, yeah, I mean, the Colts make a lot of sense for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, it does feel like they've been kind of scrambling the last couple of years to try and find the right fit and haven't quite landed on that after having the sturdiness of obviously Peyton and then Andrew Luck. So, yeah, I think there's 11 teams that have been mentioned. It definitely feels like there's probably even more interest than we realize because you have guys going on the record that, quite frankly, like an Arthur Blank or Washington or whoever, that you're like, yeah, I don't quite believe that. So, I mean, very fun to see kind of how this process plays out and where he eventually makes his splash.
Hey, Paxton, I did not put the Titans on this list. They would have been sixth. And the reason is, if I'm Lamar Jackson, the Titans are very clearly about to go into a rebuild. And the rest of these rosters, even the Commanders, Smokey, and even the Colts are built better than the Tennessee Titans are long-term. They're in kind of this, Tannehill and Derrick Henry are expiring contracts. Taylor Lewan, they let him go. They've got a new GM, Rand Carthon. They're in a rebuild, and I don't think that if they're a team that he would say yes to on that because he's.
I would want to play for Vrabel.
I would want to play for Vrabel as well, but the window on the Titans is probably a couple years just based on everything it looks like they're doing this offseason.
Best uniform in that entire group is the one on the right, the Commanders. The color scheme, the pens, and then again, you're right, Craig, that Falcons red and black looks pretty sharp too. Pretty clean. All right, Paul, thank you very much. Thanks to Jack McKenzie. Also, Emery Winter. Speaking of Emery, he'll put together, weave in and out, do his thing, his magic to get us ready for Sports Tonight at 10:30. What we do here at 10:30 every weeknight on the CW. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Thank you, Garrett, Paul, Craig. Guys, great. Tomorrow, Paul Mills, John Gallagher, John McClain, Tim Brando, among many others. Oh, and our good friend from Our Lads Guide to the NFL Draft will join us as well in John Cooper. Have a great night. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to you. This is 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI.